On the clock, we are live streaming throughout the day on our website, fox5atlanta.com, on Fox Local for your smartphones and streaming devices. And of course, you can find us on our Radio 1 network at 107.9 HD2 FM. Portia is next. Thanks for joining us. Alex and I will be back at 4.
Welcome to Fox 5 News Live, guys. I'm Jasmine Cornell. Thanks for joining this news conversation this afternoon. Your time is 1 p.m. We're streaming here on Fox Local and on some of your favorite social media sites like TikTok and YouTube. If you have any comments or questions about the stories that we're covering, feel free to weigh in the comment sections of those platforms. Let's get straight to breaking news. We know that police are responding to an officer-involved shooting out in Rockdale County. So here's what we know about this officer-involved shooting. Authorities on the scene, of course, like I just said. Hopefully we'll be able to show you live video soon, but this is happening at a home in the 3200 block of Lindis Circle. We don't know the circumstances, but authorities have confirmed it's an officer-involved shooting and that the GBI has been called to investigate. And that is typically what happens in these situations. The GBI is called to investigate officer-involved shootings, but we'll bring you updates on this story. We don't know the extent of the injuries involving the officer, and we all update you as soon as we learn more. In the meantime, let's talk about what Fox 5 News is working on today. We're covering several stories in the Metro Atlanta area. Let's go ahead and bring in Cal Calloway. He's our managing editor. Cal, in this first story out of DeKalb, originally it was unclear what happened, but it's now being reported that there's a possible shooting there.
Well, authorities have confirmed it is a shooting. Police confirmed that just before the noon hour for us. Let's show you some video from the scene. This is off of Battle Forest Drive. This is a street near Decatur. We talked to several residents out there who say they know who the victim is. This is a woman who was apparently shot to death. What they tell us is this woman is known for being very friendly in the neighborhood, also known for walking her dog. There may be some indication that's what was going on this morning when she was shot. Those residents tell us they heard multiple gunshots between 6:30 and 7 this morning. We talked to one of those residents. Let's listen to what she had to tell us about what she heard and saw.
I looked across the street. It was a lady laying down and a man over her. So I'm running, and my daughter's like, no. I get back because we heard shooting, but my instinct was to try to do what I could do to help her. And so after that, we kind of look at each other. He took off going up the street.
Information in terms of any arrest in this investigation. Fox 5's Ray Lorena has been on the scene all morning. He'll have the latest for us this afternoon on Fox Local and Fox 5 News beginning at 4 o'clock. Now, Atlanta, we have an update on a case that we covered very heavily last week. This was the Easter shooting death of 3-year-old Armani Lyons. Atlanta police have now issued warrants for 2 people in connection with that young man's death. The 2 suspects are 71-year-old Barbara Edwards, 35-year-old Jermaine Hardiman. They're both charged with felony murder, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and cruelty to children in the 2nd degree. Now, we've spoken this morning to Armani's grandmother, who we spoke to about this tragedy last week. She identifies Miss Edwards as the young man's babysitter that day. We still don't know if the gunfire came from inside or outside that apartment. Fox 5's Anjali Proctor will have the latest on that investigation. And we have a developing story out of Loganville this afternoon. For some of our viewers may remember this happened last November, and you're seeing aerials of the scene. This was a shooting outside of a CVS store in Loganville that resulted in the shooting death of Kimberly Whaley. This was on a Friday afternoon last November. A short time ago, Loganville police notified us they were going to be holding a news conference at 3 o'clock. They say they will have what they call a significant update on their shooting death investigation. We plan to carry that news conference live for you on Fox Local starting at 3 o'clock. So it's a Monday, but it's already been a very busy day on the number of stories we're following there for you. Jasmine?
That's right, Cal, and very interested in seeing what happens with the CBS story. I was doing some research on it, and at last check, authorities had not announced any arrests or just the circumstances surrounding this shooting. So I'm very interested in hearing what they have now.
We'll find out at 3 o'clock, and again, we will be carrying that live on Fox Local.
All right. Thanks, Cal, for joining us here to give us an update on what Fox 5 is working on today. Let's continue to get into our headlines. A debate set for 3 Democrats running for governor here in Georgia. And so 3 Democrats are running for Georgia governor, of course, are set to take the stage this week in a key debate ahead of this election. The hour-long event is scheduled for this Wednesday, and it will feature former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, and former DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman. And you just saw some of them on your screen. The debate is hosted by Nexstar Media, and it will be aired on stations across the state. It's expected to give voters a clearer look at each of the candidates' priorities and policy positions as the race begins to take shape. It also marks one of the first major opportunities for these candidates to share the stage and draw contrasts with one another. And this won't be the only debate that voters will see. The Atlanta Press Club's Loudermilk Young debate series is set to begin April 26, and it features multiple statewide and federal races over the course of 3 days. Now, those debates are considered a major milestone in Georgia politics, often drawing wide attention as candidates make their case to voters. So again, this happening here on Wednesday. We'll see what comes out of it. We know the tax deadline is approaching. That's also on Wednesday. So if you haven't filed your taxes, I hope you get to it soon. So again, the deadline to file your taxes is on the 15th, but you can file for an extension with the IRS by midnight on the 15th. It gives you an extra 6 months, pushing your deadline to October 15th. However, the extension is only to file, not to pay, so keep that in mind. You'll still need to send your estimated payment amount by the 15th or risk paying penalties. For more information on extensions, you can go to irs.gov. And moving now to the war with Iran, tensions continue to escalate here. So the American military is now blockading Iran's ports as the White House ramps up the pressure on Tehran to make a deal or surrender. Now, the deadline has come and gone, and the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is now in effect. The Pentagon says it will be enforced, quote, against vessels of all nations that to try to enter or leave Iranian ports. This comes after weekend talks ended with no agreement, and diplomats are now scrambling to get both sides back to the table. But President Trump is signaling he may be running out of patience here. But the blockade won't be easy to enforce. First, the Navy has to demine the strait, which is a process that could take weeks. And most experts say time is a major factor here, with Iran seeking to show the world the regime is still in charge. Meanwhile, President Trump claims the world is now turning to the U.S. to replace oil from the Middle East. U.S. crude prices were up following the blockade announcement. And the White House and its allies say it will add to the military and diplomatic pressure on Iran. The White House also says the main sticking point in negotiations is Iran's nuclear program. Again, the tensions here in this war continuing to escalate. Another situation we'll update you on as we learn more as oil prices in America continue to increase. Your time is 1:09. Let's go ahead and talk weather with meteorologist Alex Forbes. Alex, it's been a nice stretch of days here in the Atlanta area.
It really has been. And I tell you what, this afternoon, if you're not a fan of the heat, maybe you're catching a little bit of relief. It's warm outside, don't get me wrong, but it's not as warm as it was yesterday, thanks to the cloud cover. But don't get used to it because we are full steam ahead into the week ahead. Let's get to it. 76 in Atlanta, 75 in Covington, 77 over in Eatonton, 74 in Athens, 73 in Gainesville, and 75 in Blairsville. This time yesterday, we were already over that 80-degree mark. So that just goes to show you the disparity from yesterday to today. And in fact, when you look at the 24-hour temperature change across Metro Atlanta and North Georgia, you're going to see just that. We're 6 degrees cooler here in the city, 7 degrees cooler in Canton, 8 degrees cooler in Gainesville, and 5 degrees cooler over in Eatonton. Today's high temperatures getting into the mid-80s. I'm looking for 83 in the city, 85 in Rome, 80 over in Blairsville, 83 in Athens, and 83 in Eatonton. But look at this in the days to come. Getting up to 86 for tomorrow, 88 on Wednesday, starting to break high temperature records there. So the forecast is to break the record on Wednesday, tie the record on Thursday, break the record on Friday, and break the record, smash the record for Saturday. Now that Friday, high temperature of 90, Friday is April 17th. That would be the earliest we've ever hit 90 in Atlanta. For today, there are your low 80s. There's your record, April 23rd, 1980. That was the first time we hit 90 in a season that early. Average, May 31st, right? So that's when you're looking at a normal first 90-degree day. And then the latest we ever did it, that was July 28th, 1961. Also continuing to monitor the fire situation across north and central Georgia. We have several active wildfires right now, particularly up in White County, Fannin County, and in other mountain communities. But the fire conditions do come as far south as the North Metro. So the dry combination of the vegetation, the humidity, and the winds, that is what's leading to this, so please don't go burning anything. And Jasmine, I expect that pattern, the fire pattern, to actually continue here for the next couple of days. If you've got that brush pile, it needs to sit there and it needs to wait. Nobody ever intends for fire to spread, but that's what we've got on the horizon here for the next couple of days. Only a slim 20% chance of rain on Sunday. And then that is about it as we find our way into next week, and need a lot more than just that to even put a slight dent in the drought situation.
Yes, and I remember you saying that over the weekend that, you know, we're not seeing much rain here and it's needed.
It's really needed at this point. Like, I know a lot of people enjoys the cool weather, the dry weather.
Yeah.
That needs to take back seat now, right? We're in a situation.
Well, Alex, thanks so much for joining us to talk weather. We'll let you get back to doing what you need to do to get the forecast together. Guys, coming up here at 1:12 here on the 1 o'clock stream, we are going to take a look at small businesses here in our area. They're being highlighted today. Also, the Masters tournament win with Rory McIlroy and fitness goals for people over the age of 50. All those stories are next. welcome back. The Small Business Vendor Showcase is happening today. This event brings together the community and businesses, connecting those businesses with buyers and partners to create opportunities to grow. And that's where we'll find Fox 5's Chris Rosenthal. He's out there. And Chris, you've been able to talk to businesses and even people, and also you tried some food. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, absolutely. Food here is pretty good. I had some mac and cheese here earlier that was really good. But yeah, I'm at the Hyatt Hotel here in downtown Atlanta. Really cool program that they have where, you know, Hyatt, of course, is obviously a very big business, but they partner with small businesses and give them, you know, some opportunities, resources, the chance to sell some of their goods in their hotels. A lot of these are food-based businesses, so they get to use their kitchens. So, you know, I think anybody starting off in any business, having sort of a mentorship, having you know, somebody who's bigger than you really come help you out is really helpful. So I'm joined by Derek here. He is with Hyatt Hotels. Tell me a little bit about this program.
Well, it's a great program. It's really for our small business vendors, and we've done this for 5 years now. We started out in 2020, and we had about 26 vendors, and now we're up to 125 vendors. So it's really good, and we do it for small businesses in the Georgia area.
And it's a variety of businesses here, huh?
Yes, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, everything from food vendors to spirit vendors to we have a flooring company, a plumbing company. It's a little bit of everything, and just give these small businesses an opportunity to scale up with our hotels.
Well, I'm going to talk to one of those business owners here. I have Shay here. She's very busy. She's very popular. She's she is, well, she's a macaroon. She makes these macaroons here. She's local, and Shay, tell me a little bit about, you know, as a small business, having the help of a big business here. How does that help you here?
Oh, it has helped me tremendously. As a small business owner, this Hyatt event is how I was able to get a contract with the Hyatt Regency Atlanta. I have been able to secure not only the Hyatt Regency Atlanta, but also another hotel in the Hyatt family, which is a Grand Hyatt Buckhead. So it has helped me tremendously. I am truly grateful for all of the orders and all of the use that they have put my macarons to, because not only do I use them in the market with the 3-pack, but they also use it in the Polaris restaurant as birthday gifts for their clients, and then also for VIP gifts for people that come to the restaurant.
You know, and a lot of these businesses, a lot of these are food-based, and I know a lot of these businesses get to use the kitchens here, get to use the resources. You get to use some of the supplies here as well. Tell me a little bit about that here.
Yeah, so right here at the Hyatt, we are able to utilize their kitchen space when we have our macaron orders that exceed over 2,000-3,000 macaron orders in a day. We are able to utilize the facility for that.
And the honey here too.
Yes, so these right here, this is our lavender honey, and the honey is actually sourced by Chef Jason, who is the beekeeper here at the Hyatt. And so we have our fresh lavender honey macarons, and we have infused the lavender shell with the honey. And then this is also the Polaris signature macaron that represents the Polaris. It has the blue dome and the lavender honey.
With FIFA World Cup coming here, you know, and this is an international hotel. So what does it mean to have, you know, possibly that international exposure here and all the guests in town?
Well, it's great for me because our brand is globally inspired flavors along with our Southern twist, which is our Southern finesse. And so because we have our Southern finesse, the world is coming here. We're going to have a variety of flavors. And in addition to that, we're going to be able to customize our macarons for each of the countries that's going to be represented here in Atlanta.
Wonderful. And all this, you know, made possible with this partnership. Your story is a lot like a lot of these other businesses here. So thank you, Shay, for sharing. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, her story is a lot like a lot of these other businesses here. You know, getting to really get that chance to scale up their business, to grow a small business, and to have those resources, you know, of a big company. I mean, she, like she said, she even gets to use the kitchens here. She gets to use the honey that they that they have on top of the roof that they develop there. So there's another business over here on the other side. He does macaroni and cheese. He gets to sell that here, use the kitchens. He said his business has grown 300% because of this. So all Georgia businesses, again, partnering also with Georgia Grown Department of Agriculture here in Georgia. So just really great event here for all of these companies here.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for bringing us this event live here. We'll check back in with you later. Let's get back out to that breaking news out of Rockdale County. We know that a press conference is underway. Let's take a listen.
Expect any drug, mental issues?
GBI is investigating, and once their investigation is complete, they will be able to answer those questions.
You said that it was a male?
Yes, it was a male.
Any age range?
No, sorry, we do not have the information at this time.
And you confirmed that he was shot?
Yes, that's correct.
Once?
More than once.
More than once?
Yes.
And can you describe what part of the body?
No, sir, I cannot.
Okay. Was he also tased or anything?
I do not have that information.
Okay, but he was taken into custody ultimately?
I'm sorry?
He was ultimately taken into custody?
Yes.
And transported to the hospital?
Yes, that's correct.
Any injuries to officers?
No.
Officers that were involved in this incident, kind of what's the protocol for them going forward?
Of course, they're going to be placed on administrative leave while the investigation is active until it's concluded.
Was the suspect armed with anything?
I do not have the information. GBI will provide further information once their investigation is complete.
Did she say that the suspect is...
That's all.
Very good. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, you just listened in on the press conference there. That was Christine Nesbitt with the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office speaking about this officer-involved shooting in Rockdale County. Again, she mentioned that the GBI has been called to investigate this officer-involved shooting, which typically happens in these situations. But we will keep you updated on this situation, this happening on the 3200 block of Linda's Circle, and we'll continue to follow this story and update you as we learn more on this officer-involved shooting. Moving forward now, let's change gears a little bit this morning and get into the Masters tournament. What a big weekend. I'm from Augusta, been to the Masters tournament before. It's such a fun time. And Rory McIlroy waking up smiling big this morning. He just secured his place in Masters history and golf history yesterday, becoming just the fourth player to win consecutive Masters titles.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the 2026 Masters champion, Rory McIlroy.
Again, that was Rory McIlroy there. It took him 17 years to win his first green jacket, but now he has two, so that's great news for him. McIlroy defended his title at the Masters, beating Scottie Scheffler, who has also won the Masters before, by one stroke here. McIlroy is now the fourth player again to earn back-to-back wins at Augusta National. The others were Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods. So as you can see, the excitement there, he and his family are smiling big today.
Absolutely delighted to be able to get it done. Having a 6-shot lead going into the weekend, it would have been a bitter pill to swallow if I wasn't able to get myself over the finish line. We lose a lot more in golf than we win, so I think when the winning comes around, you have to celebrate it to the fullest.
And, the jacket, that beautiful green jacket there isn't the only thing that he gets to take home. He also won $4.5 million, which is a pretty big there. Congratulations to him and everyone who participated in this tournament. Moving forward now, sticking with sports and fitness, a local fitness coach and gym owner is on a mission to help older adults to improve their strength, balance, and coordination. Fox 5's Paul Milliken visited Stronger Now Gym, this is in Sandy Springs, just to see how they're changing lives for the better.
All right, everybody, I think so many of you feel like I feel. The older you get, things start to change, right? Just getting out of bed can hurt in the mornings. Just walking up a flight of stairs feels totally different. As we age, fitness levels become really, really important. And somebody who knows that very well is Alex Mitchell, who is the founder of Stronger Now. Alex, it's amazing to be here and to see what you've built. And what does it feel like for you just to stand here and to look around your facility and see people at work?
It's been so incredible building this, and it's amazing to see it come to fruition. And the reception from the community has just been unbelievable.
Yeah, well, it's been amazing to watch, and the relationship that you're building with your clients. So let's start very basic. If somebody walks in off the street and says, what is this place? How do you answer that question?
This is a gym for people 50 and up, for older adults who need strength training the most, but probably have the least access to it and probably are served the least by most of the things out there.
Right, and so let's talk about strength training. Why is strength training the key to aging better?
Strength training is the fountain of youth because your muscle mass dictates your agency and your ability to be independent in life.
Yeah, so the things I was talking about before, just the getting out of bed, walking up a flight of stairs, simple tasks every day, those are things that strength training can help mitigate, right?
That's exactly right. We try to make sure that everything you do in the outside world is easy so that it doesn't have the ability to hurt you. It doesn't hurt when you get up. It doesn't hurt when you get out of bed. We're going to take our hands, put them right in front of us. That's exactly right. Perfect.
Everybody here is sort of on an individual plan, correct?
That's exactly right. Every single client that you see working out here is doing a specific individual program that's made just for them based on their limitations, their goals, and their medical history.
Yeah, because there are probably people watching this that say, look, I want to do that. I would love to do that, and I know I need to do it, but I have back problems, or I have a bad knee, or I have a shoulder issue. Are you able to work with those things and still find a way to create a plan for somebody who has those limitations?
That's exactly what we do, and it's why it's so important to have a coach and to have a coach watching you while you're doing those exercises. But yes, I would say that it doesn't matter whether it's a knee replacement, a back issue, or even something much more serious like multiple sclerosis or rheumatoid arthritis. All of those things can be overcome if you work the right way.
Yeah, okay, let's walk over here. Now, for example, we've got some kettlebells, things. Show me like a way that you might use this with somebody to start their strength training journey.
It's a great question. So the first thing we might do is just something like a deadlift or something where you'd pick something up off the ground. Oftentimes when we hear people hurting themselves, it's because they were picking something heavy up off the ground
100%.
and their body wasn't ready for it. And so what we would do is we'd have them down here and we'd teach them how to make sure that their back is nice and flat, they're using their legs, they're using their quads, and when they pick it up, it's seamless and easy, right? And then the next thing we might do is have them walk with a weight in their hands and try to make sure that they're balanced to work on that balance and coordination.
Okay. Thank you so much for inspiring me. Look, again, I'm not going to say how old I am again. I've already said it too many times, but I'm getting there. I'm getting to this place. So look out for me soon, okay, Alex?
We would love to have you. We'd love to help.
Thank you so much. Again, this is Stronger Now in Sandy Springs. We'll put tons of information on our website, fox5atlanta.com. Just look under the Good Day section.
All right, Paul, thank you. Still ahead today, this afternoon, why President Trump is clashing with Pope Leo, and also Metro Atlanta rapper Offset returns to the stage after being shot last week. We'll take a look at those stories. Welcome back. Let's get into our top national stories here. President Trump taking aim at Pope Leo there. And this is all because of his criticism with the U.S. actions in Iran. He has been a big critic with the war between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. But the Pope is responding, saying he has no fear of the Trump administration. The first Pope from the U.S., again, has been an outspoken critic of the policies of his home country, of America, speaking out on issues like immigration, Venezuela, and most recently, the war with Iran. Last night, President Trump didn't hold back. Let's take a listen to what he said.
We don't like it. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
And so the Pope has called for peace over military action in Iran and heavily criticized President Trump for his threat to destroy Iranian civilization, calling it, quote, truly unacceptable.
Things that I say are certainly not meant as attacks on anyone. And the message of the gospel is very clear. Blessed are the peacemakers. I will not shy away from announcing the message of the gospel, of inviting all people to look for ways of building bridges for peace and reconciliation, of looking for ways to avoid war anytime that's possible.
And President Trump continuing to speak about this on social media in a pair of posts. The president shared an AI photo of himself depicted as a Jesus-like figure shortly after he was called the Pope weak on, or shortly after he called the Pope weak on crime, and suggested Leo would not have been elected if he was not in the White House. Pope Leo stressed he was not directly attacking Trump and will continue to share the message of the gospel there. Forward, existing home sales declined 3.6%. So this might be interesting to you if you're looking to buy a home. It's an even weaker number than economists were estimating, and home prices rose in March. The median existing home price rose about 1.4% to $408,800, a record. National Association of Realtors economist Lawrence Yun says inventory remains limited, though price growth has helped the typical homeowner accumulate more than $128,000 in housing wealth over the past 6 years. And another story that you all probably have been following for about a week now, or over 10 days. Let's talk about the Artemis II astronauts who are back here in the U.S. safe. Good news there. So after setting an incredible record for deep space travel, the 4 Artemis II astronauts who you see on your screen are now back home. The astronauts not only traveled deeper than any humans have gone before, but they also captured stunning images of the moon. The crew got an emotional hero's welcome at the Johnson Space Center on Saturday, with Commander Reed Wiseman saying they are now bonded forever.
Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, we are bonded forever, and no one down here is ever going to know what the 4 of us just went through, and it was the most special thing that will ever happen in my life.
And like you heard him say, no one will ever, none of us will get to experience what they went through. What they did was just incredible. So NASA is already planning its next moon mission. Artemis III is expected to launch sometime in mid-2027 with the goal of testing out flight procedures and docking capabilities in low Earth orbit. So pretty cool here that they're still working to advance this mission. The mission will also include new space suits. Specifics about design features and a crew will be announced next year. And then comes Artemis IV with the aim of returning humans to the moon's surface to study the lunar environment. It will set the stage for potential annual crewed missions. And in the next decade, NASA wants to establish a permanent nuclear-powered lunar moon base so astronauts can live and work there and then eventually land on Mars. Incredible work that NASA is doing there. And I'm glad to hear that those astronauts made it back safely. So let's go ahead and move back to that officer-involved shooting. We know that authorities are still there on the scene. This is in Rockdale County and Conyers, to be exact. On Linda's Circle Southeast. You can see live pictures beside me here, our chopper over that area, over that home where this has happened. And then also you did see some other live video there. But this is of our chopper here. Again, this is in Rockdale County. The shooting involving a law enforcement officer currently under investigation. This took place on the 3200 block of Linda's Circle Southeast, which is near McCullough Road Southeast and Old Salem Road Southeast. And so we just heard from the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office, Christine Nesbitt there, a representative. She spoke about this incident very briefly. She's confirmed that a person had been shot by a law enforcement officer and was taken to the hospital for treatment. No officers were injured here in this officer-involved shooting. No other information has been given at this time about the circumstances that led up to the shooting. But we do know the GBI has been called to investigate this officer-involved shooting, which is common during these situations. And Fox 5 Atlanta also has crew on scene and will update you as this story develops here. Again, no officers involved. Still working to learn what led up to the shooting, but one person was shot by an officer and was hospitalized. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. Now let's talk about what's trending on Fox 5 Atlanta. These are the stories that you all are clicking on the most on our website. Let's bring in Joyce Lupiani. She's our Fox 5 digital content creator. And Joyce, there's a special story that's going viral online. The Sandy Springs officer doing this kind gesture, helping out a kid.
Hi, Yasmin. Yes, this was really a nice little story that they posted on their Facebook page. It's a Sandy Springs police officer, and he came across this young man in the parking lot. It appears that the young man is homeless. So the police officer had his body camera rolling at the time, and he gave him a pair of Jordans. And you could just tell the way that the young man responded that he was like super grateful to get those shoes. And he even told the police officer before they parted that if he ever got back on his feet again, that he would make sure to like help somebody out in the future. So yes, this has gone viral. A lot of people have left comments about it. It's just an example of how the police are out there, you know, serving the community and helping people besides, you know, just putting them under arrest sometimes.
Yes, it's a very special story here, and I'm glad to see this. I'm hoping that we can speak with the little boy who was gifted these shoes. I really like to hear stories like this.
Absolutely. Well, the next one is about gas prices. So you may have noticed, we've been talking about it a lot, obviously, over the last few weeks, and you may have noticed that gas prices actually went down just a little bit. So they went down here in Georgia like 3 cents. From last week. Our previous average cost per gallon was like $3.70, and right now it's like $3.67, according to Gas Buddy. Well, President Trump apparently said yesterday that we can't really expect the gas prices to go down in the near future. In fact, he said they will probably stay about the same or even go a little higher, at least through November, through the elections. Unfortunately, it just seems like this little issue or big issue with Iran isn't going to clear up quite as quickly as the president expected. So we're probably going to have to face several more months at least of higher gas prices. But they did go down a little bit this week in Georgia. So hopefully they won't get too much worse than they are now, and we can just kind of, you know, at least stay at this level until this whole situation is resolved.
Absolutely. I know people are very frustrated about the gas prices and the prices increasing just nationwide. And I did take a look quickly at AAA's website. It looks like the national average has stayed the same. And you're right that our average did decrease a little bit here in Georgia. Let's talk about Offset now, who has returned to the stage after he was shot last week.
Yeah, it's only right. Like you said, it's only been about a week, and he was at Coachella this weekend. Now, apparently he was in a wheelchair for like part of his performance, but he got up and he walked around, and he performed like a full set, from what I can tell from everything that I've read online. He did post like several things on Instagram about the performance and like thanking everyone for all of their support over this past week. We still don't really know exactly what happened or who shot him. There was another rapper that was arrested, but he was just charged with like disorderly conduct. And his lawyer has said that he did not shoot Offset. There was another person arrested too, but we haven't really gotten any information about that person. So we don't, like I said, still don't really know what happened. But it was good to see Offset, you know, because he's from Atlanta. So it was good to see that he was able to get out and perform this past weekend.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that he has recovered and is able to get back on stage and do what he loves doing. Joyce, thank you so much for joining us to talk about what is trending on fox5atlanta.com. Guys, sticking with entertainment headlines there, let's talk about Britney Spears. She has voluntarily checked herself into rehab here. I don't know if you remember us talking about her recently. She was arrested for driving under the influence. So again, she has voluntarily checked herself into a treatment facility. Spears was arrested last month near her home in Southern California. She was allegedly seen driving erratically at a high speed on US 101. Authorities say she was showing signs of impairment, and chemical test results are still pending. So a representative for the Piece of Me singer calling this incident unfortunate and, quote, completely inexcusable following her arrest. The circumstances surrounding her care have not been made public. So again, Britney Spears checking herself into rehab. Moving forward now, some early 2000s trends are returning, but doctors are sounding the alarm on 2000s skinny. Not quite sure what that is, but interested in learning more about it. Again, doctors sounding the alarm on this. Fox 5's Caitlin Pratt spoke with an expert named Tharsila Smith. She's from Atlanta's Renfrew Center. She has more on why this is an issue.
Tell us about this trend. Let's dive right in and why it's so concerning.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, we've seen trends come and go over the years, and it's typically the clothes. What is so concerning and so different about the trend right now is that it's not the clothing necessarily, it's the body. So we're seeing, themes and images like the body is the outfit, and teens are being influenced to change the way their body looks to fit this certain ideal. And oftentimes this is coming from social media influencers and not health professionals.
Right. The whole line, nothing tastes as good as his skinny feels, things like that.
Yes.
And for younger folks, impressionable folks, I imagine that makes it especially dangerous.
Absolutely. So, just to talk a little bit about social media, our teens are spending on average 3 to 4 hours on their phones scrolling through things. And even just 3 hours has already been linked to an increase in mental health concerns. So they're constantly being exposed to this message, which makes it become real, right? It becomes like, this is a fact, this is the truth, this is what I need to do, this is what's expected. And with that comes a lot of clinical and health concerns. We at Renfrew are already seeing a huge increase in disordered eating patterns, for example, orthorexia, which is that obsession with very healthy foods and healthy, clean eating. And with this shift back to thinness at all costs, we're seeing an increase face an extreme restriction in adolescents as well as adults. And there's a lot of health risks that come along with this. Malnutrition, which can impact the focus for adolescents who play sports. It's going to impact their sports performance and their hormones, which are so critical during that adolescent period. And not to mention, when the body isn't getting enough fuel, we're going to see vital organs being impacted, like the heart, because eating disorders are the second most deadliest mental health disorder.
So not only disruptive, but potentially dangerous. And what kind of signs can parents, caregivers watch out for?
So we like to, for parents, I think the first thing they may see is a sudden change in their teenagers' eating habits, whether they start eating less food, skipping meals, restricting what they're eating, or all of a sudden cutting out those favorite foods because they're no longer considered healthy or clean. Also an increase in body checking, which essentially just means they're looking at their body constantly, comparing it to others, maybe even asking parents for affirmations of like, do my thighs look too big? Do you think they touch? Things like that, which is very aligned with that 2000 skinny, right, of having that thigh gap. And then also noticeable mood changes, especially after being on social media.
Now, we have about a minute left. Any final thoughts you want to get across to our viewers watching this right now and saying, yeah, this sounds familiar?
100%. So I think the goal right now is to really have open conversations with their teenagers about what they're seeing and how that's impacting them, and really focusing with them on how we kind of investigate what we're seeing, who's creating this, what's their intent, and not taking everything at face value.
Helping teens engage with social media in a way that protects them, right?
Yes.
Mentally and physically.
In a healthy way, yes, correct.
Absolutely. All right, thanks for your perspective, Arthosilla. We appreciate you. And to learn more, get started, you can go ahead and visit renfrewcenter.com or call 1-800-RENFREW for any questions or guidance. And also you can follow them at Renfrew Center on social media.
Some very important information there from an eating disorders experts and the Renfrew Center that treats people with eating disorders. Your time is 1:47. When we return, we're getting a sample of this week's Taste of Atlanta event, and you don't want to miss it. Welcome back. We are following another breaking news story this afternoon. An Amber Alert issued for missing Florida teenager who could be right here in the state of Georgia. Law enforcement officers are searching for 15-year-old Adriana Hernandez on your screen. She's 5'1", weighs 130 pounds, and has brown hair and brown eyes. Although she may have a reddish-brown tint in her hair right now. Officials say Hernandez was last seen on April 7th on Bruce Lane in Milton, Florida. They also say she may have traveled to Georgia. Her disappearance has been upgraded to an Amber Alert due to the ongoing investigation. If you have any information on where she is, you're being asked to contact authorities in Santa Rosa County, that is, at 850-983-1190. Again, this missing Florida teen could be here in Georgia, according to authorities. Let's talk about some positive news now about the WNBA draft. So the stories for you basketball fans out there, that's happening tonight, and it all goes down at the Shed at Hudson Yards in New York City. The Dallas Wings have the first pick, while our Atlanta Dream will be pick number 13. So this year, the number 1 pick has changed often, going from Spaniard Awa Fam to Yukon guard AZ Fudd, and this year's NCAA champion and tournament MVP Lauren Betts. Other noteworthy names in the draft include South Carolina guard and Atlanta's own Raven Johnson. LSU guard and Sprayberry High School grad Flau'jae Johnson is also one to watch out for. There are also 2 new organizations, with the Toronto Tempo having the 6th pick and the Portland Fire picking 7th. Now, this draft night is one of the most anticipated draft classes in a long time. And again, you can watch that tonight on ESPN. And let's talk about food now. No, maybe it's lunchtime for you. I'm pretty sure you're hungry. Atlanta's premier food and drink festival is celebrating a huge milestone. The 25th annual Taste of Atlanta is coming up this Thursday with great bites and terrific entertainment. Fox 5's Joanne Feldman got a preview with the event's founder and our friends at Fox Brothers Barbecue.
This is a huge milestone. It really is. Congratulations.
Thank you.
First and foremost, what do you think has made this event so special and so enduring over the years?
You know, I think it's the chefs. I think it's the restaurants. Atlanta has so many amazing places to eat, different international flavors, and you can check out a new restaurant all the time. Yeah. So Taste of Atlanta really highlights and showcases the best and the favorites and diversity, and it's all in one place. So right. I think people just want to taste a lot of different things.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the fact that it's been around for as long as it has, yes. You know, things change and evolve over time. What can people expect this year?
You know, they can expect the best of the best. Mm-hmm. I mean, here we've got Jonathan, right. And the Fox Brothers will be with us. We've got NFA Burger. We have Bojanic, Tandoori Pizza and Wings. A lot of restaurants who started with us mm-hmm. are still around, and then a lot of new ones that have joined us over the last, 10, 15 years. They're all going to be showcasing great food.
Oh, it sounds terrific. All right, so you, Jonathan, you guys have been a part of this for a very long time. What has it meant for you to be a part of this?
I mean, it's been great. 25 years just makes us feel like how old we all are.
Like we're all doing math and going, wow.
We're in our 19th year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like we just opened the other day. But yeah, no, it's great to celebrate Atlanta in a town that we love and love being a part of. Yeah. So and share our tastes with everyone.
Sure. Well, like Dale said, it's the best of the best. Mm-hmm. So we count on Fox Brothers Barbecue being there. Yeah. What are you making up for us today?
So growing up in Texas, we grew up with a lot of Tex-Mex or Mexican food. So one thing, obviously, we do traditional barbecue, but I love like taking our some of the stuff we grew up with and then making it our own. So this is our take on like a Suadero taco. Okay. So it's a street taco. Suadero is generally cut off the belly, but it's very similar to brisket, so that's why this works out so well. So we take our brisket and salt it and then let it sit overnight and then smoke it like we should. And then once it hits about 3/4 of the way through the cook, we'll take it and simmer it in lard with a bunch of aromatics, onions, garlic, kind of that traditional thing. And then we're going to serve it on a tostada. It'll be a little smaller than this, but I brought you a big bite.
Okay. So, you knew I was hungry this morning.
Yeah. So it gets really tender.
Yeah.
I mean, and then
that's the good stuff.
We'll take it and chop it up, and then we'll start with a little creamy chili de arbol salsa. So it's got a little heat to it.
I was going to say, you said this would have a kick to it. Is it multiple pieces, or is that what's really giving it the...
It's multiple pieces.
Okay,
so
all right.
It kind of
different
builds.
layers of heat.
Yeah, so
okay.
we'll tack that on there, and then we have a salsa verde, which is, tomatillos, some serranos, garlic, onion, and then if we couldn't have any more flavor, a little pico de gallo, so it's bright and refreshing.
Wow.
And then just to make it a little more vibrant, we have a little queso fresco.
I love
it's like a fresh white cheese. So yeah, I mean, we take our barbecue and mix it with some of the stuff I love cooking and items like that. I love tacos.
Yeah.
But so it's fun to get to do stuff like
I was going to say, is this a good opportunity for you to be able to serve things that maybe you don't necessarily have on your regular menu?
Yeah, it gets us out of our wheelhouse. We like to have fun with it. It gives me a chance to cook and do fun things outside of running an entire operation.
Yeah,
so
that keeps you busy.
Yeah. I remember when I used to just cook.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our dish.
All right.
So that's what makes it fun for the festival too. Is Jonathan is there. He's talking with the people.
Yeah.
It's a real eat and greet sort of event where people get to learn how Jonathan came to do what he does, and it makes it all fun.
Well, it's a whole experience.
It is
all the way around, and it, like you say, it even goes just beyond the food and the drink and just the tasting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have wine, beer, and cocktail tastings. We have live music. There's a whole lot of things to do and keep you busy for 4 hours.
Yeah, and tell us about the venue this year.
The venue this year is we're going to be at the Works, the Curate event space off of Logan Circle, and it starts at 6 o'clock and goes till 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And it's a great location. I mean, we have a restaurant there on the west side at the Works, and we've been there for 4 or 5 years now. So it's a thriving area, and it's growing, and it's a Seelig family development, and it's a project near and dear of their heart, and they wanted to participate in this event, and we were like, we're here. So.
And that's the neat thing about Taste of Atlanta too, is that we are all about showcasing different local areas, different neighborhoods filled with the culinary restaurants in that area. And the Works has really done a super job to bring together a lot of different types of restaurants.
Well, fantastic. And cheers to 25 more years here. Okay, I'm going to ask which one of you wants to play news anchor here for a moment and read the teleprompter so I can get a bite of this and somebody can read this information. Who's volunteering? All right.
Taste of Atlanta's 25th anniversary tasting event is happening this Thursday at the Works, Upper West Side, Atlanta. For tickets, head to our website, box5atlanta.com, and go to Good Day.
Click on today's viewer information link.
That's right.
There you go. Excellent.
What a wonderful story there, and it's making me hungry. Thank you so much for joining us here at Fox 5 News Live. The news continues at 2 p.m.
Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here on your Monday afternoon. We've got a lot of news to get to. Want to talk about the latest going on with the war with Iran. The president just stepped out of the Oval Office and was able to address some of his plan regarding the conflict, so we're going to touch on that. We're also going to touch on a lot of local stories here closer to home. We've got a super speeder who was caught in Sandy Springs, and we also have more on a debate set for some candidates who are running to be the next governor of the state of Georgia. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, I'd like to start with breaking news. We have an Amber Alert that was issued for a young girl, Florida teen. And at this point, authorities believe she could be here in Georgia. They're searching for 15-year-old Adriana Hernandez. She's 5 feet 1 inch tall, weighs 130 pounds, brown hair and brown eyes, as you can see from this photo. Hernandez was last seen April 7th, 2026 on Bruce Lane in Milton, Florida, and authorities say she may have traveled here to Georgia. Her appearance has been upgraded to an Amber Alert due to details that police were able to find out as a result of this ongoing investigation. So if you recognize this young girl, you have seen her somewhere and she looks familiar to you, give police a call as soon as you can. As we continue along here at 2 o'clock, I want to talk about a woman who was shot, because at this point, this is an ongoing situation, and our Ray Urena hopes to join us live at 3 to talk a little bit more about what police are finding. At this point, DeKalb County Police are trying to figure out who pulled the trigger in a deadly shooting. This happened in a Decatur area neighborhood. Officers responded to reports of gunfire early this morning, and the investigation is really centered on Battle Forest Drive near Manassas Lane. Police confirm a woman was killed. Neighbors told reporters the victim was known in the area for walking her dog and was described as friendly. Residents say they heard multiple gunshots between 6:30 and 7 a.m. One neighbor said she saw the woman lying on the ground with a man nearby before he ran from the scene. Police were seen throughout this neighborhood, speaking with residents and gathering information, trying to figure out what happened and getting clues and witness statements. One thing that investigators have not released are details about a suspect or anyone who has been arrested. The investigation is ongoing. Police have not released the name or the age of the victim, and we'll continue to keep you updated as we get new information regarding this story. Like I said, our Ray Urena is working to find out more information, and he'll join us at 3 o'clock. As we continue here, a super speeder was caught in Sandy Springs. This person was caught driving in excess of 119 miles per hour. This happened on I-285 in Sandy Springs, and police, as a result, are urging drivers to slow down. Police say that the driver was clocked going that fast, almost 120 miles per hour, in a 65 miles per hour zone. This was on I-285 northbound near New North Side Drive. Officers had shared a photo of the radar reading, and they're urging motorists to drive responsibly to avoid dangerous situations on the road, so that way everyone can stay safe. I also want to let you know about some overnight shootings that are under investigation here this morning, this afternoon, but they did happen early this morning because these unfolded in DeKalb and in Brookhaven. Police are investigating these shootings here across the metro. One has happened at an apartment complex, another at a fast food restaurant, and another at a grocery store parking lot. Authorities say one of the shootings happened at Glen Hollow Apartments on Flat Shoals Road, where a woman was shot. Her condition has not been released. Another person was shot at a Checkers restaurant on Wesley Chapel, and police are trying to figure out how the victim's doing in that case. And in Brookhaven, a man was shot multiple times in a Kroger parking lot on Peachtree Road. Police say the victim was rushed to the hospital for treatment, but that shooting marks the second incident in that same location, the Kroger, in the past 3 weeks. So this is something that police are taking a look at. We'll keep you updated as we get new information regarding this overnight violence. But again, like I said, happened in DeKalb County and in Brookhaven. So we'll keep you updated there. Looking over to my right here as we continue, I want to see if we can get you guys an update as to what is going to happen with the Democrats that are running for governor of the state of Georgia. Take a look. We now know that these 3 Democrats are going to face off in an upcoming debate, and you'll get a closer look at their platforms ahead of the election this November. It's going to be an hour-long debate. It's scheduled for Wednesday. It's going to feature former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, and former DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurmond. The debate is being hosted by Nexstar Media, and it'll be aired on different stations around the state. Another major round of debates is also on the way. The Atlanta Press Club's Loudermilk Young debate series will start April 26th, covering multiple statewide and federal races over 3 days. So we'll keep you updated as that progresses, because a lot of you guys have asked questions as to how many people are running for governor for the state of Georgia. It is quite a few, and this will give you a chance to take a look at their platforms. If you're curious about the Republicans running for governor of the state of Georgia, we'll keep you updated when a debate is announced for them. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, I'm looking off to my right, and it looks like we have Doug Evans ready to go. So let's check in with him, because Doug has done some reporting this morning, speaking with a veterans group in Coweta County as they try to collect items to deliver to troops for the war in Iran. Doug, thanks so much for joining us live. I see you're on a park bench. Tell us a little bit about what you're following today.
Yeah, hanging out here at the Noonan Town Square, one of my favorite places to sit in the shade and people watch, and been working on a story with a group of local veterans from Coweta County who are putting together a collection drive for the troops. It's that time, with the conflict in Iran, and we've got troops overseas, and these veterans know how important it is to receive care packages from home, things that might not be available to them wherever they're stationed. One of them is Christian Spinks, a young man from Coweta County. I've known him for quite some time, worked in law enforcement here for quite some time as well. And he is one of the veterans who's collecting items, and they're working with the local VFW post in Coweta County to do that. There is a great list of things that they are asking for in these care packages, and we haven't done this story in quite a while, right? Back when things were really going in the Middle East, we did these stories quite frequently, but we haven't in a while. So it's good to kind of catch up and see the things that the troops need again. The items that they're collecting, including snacks, they say no pork because some of these care packages will be going to Muslim countries, packs of socks, packs of T-shirts. They say solid colors on those T-shirts, no logos. Hygiene items, example wipes, bar soap, stick deodorant, and toothbrush. They say no aerosol cans, please, or nothing that would be a liquid hygiene product. Books, they love books, especially paperbacks, and they're also looking for Postal Service medium flat rate boxes and packing tape as well. And there's a number of places you can drop them off. One is over here to my right, the Ace Growler here in the town square in Noonan. And you can drop that off during business hours. They have a collection site there. Also, our friends over at the Noonan Times-Herald, they're volunteered their offices to be a collection site as well. And then there are some special dates to tell you about. On April 27th, between 3 and 6 p.m., that's a Monday, 3 to 6 p.m., Monday, April 27th, you can drop it off at the VFW post here in Noonan, and that is located at 130 Veterans Club Road in Noonan. And then there's another drop-off date, April 30th, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and you can drop it off there at the same Veterans VFW post there. Again, that address, 130 Veterans Club Road. So, back when things were going hot and heavy, Ariel, in the Middle East, thinking about, 2002, 2003, and on, we did quite a number of these stories where the communities would come together and they would collect these items and send them overseas to the troops. And so it has begun again. And, let's hear from Christian Spinks about how important these items were for him when he was deployed. And Christian, I would imagine that in your service, you got things like that.
Certainly, yeah. This is care packages are a big thing to active duty. You spend so long away from home. When you get stuff like this, it kind of brings you back home, especially when you're in a different country and you don't have access to Lay's potato chips or Oreos or Doritos. It's a piece of home. So.
Yeah, and we've got all kinds of folks over there in all kinds of different areas.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And continuing to serve, and got the thing going on in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And so what kind of motivated you guys to get this started now?
Yeah, so I've got a couple friends. I'm real active with the VFW in Noonan, which is the Jackson Medal of Honor, post 2667. I've been going there quite often, haven't quite joined with them yet, but I've got a couple buddies who are also former military or veterans now. And we got to talking about it, and just having that peace of home while you are away from home is a big part of it. Not only does it, kind of lift camaraderie and make people happier, but it kind of gives people the motivation to keep pushing it, doing what they're doing. So it's always been a good thing. It was a good thing for me. And I just hope to, kind of bring that joy to people who are still serving.
The lady cried.
One of the veterans here locally, let that truck pass. One of the veterans locally who's collecting these things. And listen, we're going to have all these details for you on our website at fox5atlanta.com. So if you missed any of this, didn't grab that pencil in time, we'll have it there for you so you can jot this down and maybe
awesome, Doug.
Compelled to help out in this.
Just a little bit, like he said, a taste of home or items from home can really help go the distance in terms of being so far away. We have a few people chiming in our chat here on TikTok, Doug. As always, we have a community of people who love to ask questions about stories. Someone is asking why no pork, and someone else is asking if our government can't send these items and why it has to be the private citizens who send them. But is it because private citizens are taking it upon themselves to maybe do this out of the goodness of their heart, and it's not like our government doesn't, it's just that citizens have decided we want to go the extra mile?
It's not like the government doesn't feed the troops. They absolutely do. It's just, it's hard in some of the places that these men and women are deployed to get things like he said, Oreos or Lay's potato chips or whatever. And so this is a good opportunity for people to open up their pocketbooks and their hearts and help out. And people have always done this. This has been going on forever and ever, right?
Yeah.
Every conflict that you can imagine, people have done that. Why no pork? Because some of these troops are stationed in Muslim countries. We have agreements on what we can and can't bring into those countries. And pork is one of those things that they're not allowed to bring in. So
yeah.
It's simply that. They're not allowed to ship it into the Muslim countries where our troops are currently deployed.
Doug, thanks for letting us know how we can get involved with this effort. If we choose to do so, feel called to do so. I know you're going to join us again later this evening with more details on how people can drop things off and that sort of thing. But the graphic was really helpful so people could understand what items they're looking for. And also just a great way to get involved if you choose to support someone close to home. So Doug, thanks so much for joining us live. Appreciate you. I'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much. As we continue on here, you guys, speaking of the war with Iran, let's get to the latest there, because at this point, the American military is now blockading Iran's ports. And this comes as the White House is trying to pressure Iran to make a deal or surrender. The deadline has come and gone for Iran to accept a peace deal, and the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is now in effect. The Pentagon says it's going to be enforced, quote, against vessels of all nations that try to enter or leave Iran's ports. It comes after weekend talks with Iran ended with no agreement, and diplomats are now scrambling to get both sides back to the table here. President Trump is signaling he may be running out of patience, but the blockade is not going to be easy for the United States to enforce. That's because the Navy has to demine the Strait of Hormuz, a process that could take weeks before they can enforce the blockade. Most experts say time is a major factor, with Iran seeking to show the world the regime is still in charge. The president claims the world is now turning to the United States to replace oil from the Middle East. U.S. crude prices went up following the blockade announcement. The White House and its allies say it will add to the military and diplomatic pressure already on Iran. The White House also says the main sticking point in negotiations is Iran's nuclear program. Now, keep in mind, the president is also sparring with Pope Leo for his criticism of the United States' actions in Iran. The Pope is responding, saying he has no fear of the Trump administration and that he doesn't want the message of the gospel to be abused in the way that some people are doing. His words. The first Pope from the United States has been an outspoken critic of the policies of his home country. He spoke out on issues like immigration, Venezuela, and most recently the war with Iran. On Sunday night, President Trump did not hold back. He said, quote, "We don't like a pope that's going to say it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and we don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it," end quote. Now, the pope has called for peace over military action in Iran, and he's heavily criticized President Trump for his threat to destroy Iranian civilization, calling it, quote, "truly unacceptable." Now, in a pair of posts, the president shared an AI photo of himself depicted as a Jesus-like figure. Shortly after, he called the Pope weak on crime and suggested Leo would not have been elected if he was not in the White House. Pope Leo has stressed he was not directly attacking President Trump and will continue to share the message of the gospel. Some prominent Christian conservatives who have supported President Trump in the past are heavily criticizing this AI post in which the president posted a photo of himself depicted as Jesus Christ. Now, the president spoke earlier today. We have a soundbite titled President Trump Today, which I would like to play for you guys, basically talking about what unfolded from the Oval Office. The president was there for another event, but we're going to continue to keep you updated. So let's go ahead and listen, there we go, to what the president had to say today.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as the doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's going through some very serious cancer treatment, so
yes,
this goes a long way.
Yes, sir, it sure does. Mr. President, are another round of talks planned with Iran? And if so, will you send Vice President J.D. Vance with?
Well, he's done a good job, and Steve and Jared, they've all done a very good job, and I can tell you that we've been called by the other side. They'd like to make a deal very badly, very badly.
What was the sticking point over? You said it was over nuclear.
It was over nuclear, very similar, yeah, very good. I guess you're listening. It's over the fact that they will never have a nuclear weapon. Iran, you marking it down? Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. And we agreed to a lot of things, but they didn't agree to that. And I think they will agree to it. I'm almost sure of it. In fact, I am sure of it. If they don't agree, there's no deal. There'll never be a deal. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, and we're going to get the dust back. We'll get it back either. We'll get it back from them, or we'll take it.
Mr. President, as far as the naval blockade is concerned, what's the end game? Is it to force Iran back to the negotiating table? Is it to open up the strait so that gas prices ultimately come down?
Maybe everything. I mean, both of those things, certainly, and more. We can't let a country blackmail or extort the world, because that's what they're doing. They're really blackmailing the world. We're not going to let that happen. And you know, the amazing thing is, we don't, can you believe this? We don't use the strait. We don't need the strait. We have our own oil and gas, much more than we need. We have more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia. Think of this. We produce more. Saudi Arabia, and add Russia to it. Substantially more. And by next year, we'll have double that amount. So we don't need it, but the world needs it. And many ships are heading to our country right now as we speak to load up with the best Really, I guess you could say, somebody said the best and sweetest. I don't know exactly what sweet is, but when it relates to oil, it's a good thing. But they're coming to our country right now. There are many boats coming to our country. Now, it could very well be this is going to be settled before then. We've been called this morning by the right people, the appropriate people, and they want to work a deal. They would like to work a deal.
Is it your anticipation?
And as President Trump spoke outside the Oval Office just about an hour or so ago, he addressed reporters' questions about the war in Iran and that photo that was posted over the weekend depicting him as a Jesus-like figure. Got to hear a little bit about what the president had to say on that. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, we are going to check in with a farmer in Nebraska who is facing some challenges with the soybean crop due to the ongoing situation between the war in the Middle East and tariffs. We want to see specifically how this is affecting farmers here in America's heartland. As we continue, we're also going to take a look at a lawsuit that a judge has recently dismissed regarding President Trump. And I want to touch on tax on tips and what you need to know as you're filing this tax season. So that's all straight ahead. We're going to start with meteorologist Alex Forbes coming up next with your local weather forecast. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad here with meteorologist Alex Forbes, and we are facing a serious lack of rain, and it's leading to serious fire risk.
Exactly. So I was just actually looking at some numbers in there. I don't have them for you yet here, but I will in the next hour. Lake Lanier is down 5 feet. Hartwell's down just 5 feet. We are about 5.5 inches below average for 2026, and that's on top of finishing 2025 8 inches below average.
Wow, yeah.
So, I know people really enjoyed the dry spring break, the warm weather. We got to start putting that aside at this point, right? We need the rain, and unfortunately, we just don't have it on the horizon. Instead, we're breaking record high temperatures. So let me show you this. Yesterday, we came close. 85 is what we did yesterday afternoon. That's close to the record of 88. So that's the writing on the wall, so to say, as to what to expect here in the next couple of days. How about that? A record low, though? 32. That's why, just remember this, we tell people not to plant stuff until after the Masters, right? This is the Monday after the Masters, and the record low today is 32. So you can get freezes this late in the season. Obviously not with the pattern we have right now, though. 79 in Atlanta, 79 over in Covington, 79 in Eatonton, 76 in Athens, and 75 in Blairsville at this hour. Look at these numbers compared to yesterday, though. It's not quite as hot. Yes, I'm using the word hot now. Mid-80s is hot to me. Instead, we're in the upper 70s. 5 degrees cooler than this time yesterday, 7 degrees cooler in Athens, 6 degrees cooler up there on the lake in Gainesville, and 5 degrees cooler in Thomaston. Now, Obviously, our days are longer, right? Sunset not until after 8, almost 8:15 tonight. So our high temperature is still yet to happen. That happens now in about the 5, 6 o'clock hour. Getting into the mid-80s this afternoon, looking for 83 in the city, 83 in Canton, 82 in Gainesville, 80 in Blairsville, and 81 over in Carrollton. Now, look at this over the next several days. This is going to be one of the cooler ones, all right? 86 for Tuesday, 88 Wednesday. That would break a record high. 87 on Thursday. That breaks a record high. 90 on Friday and Saturday. Both of those break record high temperatures. All right? So we are going to be breaking out the red Sharpie here in the next couple of days. Notice we're cooler on Sunday. That's as a front comes through. If we can squeeze some showers out, that would be great. But as I see it now, that rain chance is only at about 20%. So for the remainder of the day, we'll go from mostly cloudy to mostly clear skies by sunset this evening. That's going to set the stage for a nice Braves game this evening. Temperatures low 80s, upper 70s. But want to talk more about this 90-degree weather, all right? So if we hit 90 on Friday, which is what we're forecasted to do, that is April 17th. That would be the earliest we have ever hit 90 in Atlanta on record. And look at that up at the top of the screen. Data since 1878, right? So that's a long period of record, and we have never hit 90 as early as we're forecasted to this week. For reference,
oh boy.
I mean, May 31st, that's when we typically do it. Now, you alluded to it. This has led to high fire danger this afternoon and evening, and likely here through the week ahead. It's the combination of the breeze out of the southwest, the hot temperatures, the really dry, drought-like conditions on the ground, but then also the low humidity, which is another piece to this forecast here. It actually feels like 86, feels like 88, feels like 87, and that's led to the fire risk, but it's the lack of humidity, which I guess is the saving grace in terms of what it feels like outside.
It's interesting. We have some people saying, you know, oh, is it going to be cooler next week? And then later saying, okay, never mind. I see OK Cool saying that. So, yeah, it is. It's going to be very warm. And, Alex, especially this heat combined with the lack of rain. Yeah. I mean, this warm early in April, I can't say I love it.
You know, I was telling Jasmine this earlier. I am a fan of warm weather.
Sure,
don't get me wrong.
Sure.
I like spring, though. I like the mid to upper 70s.
Why can't it last?
For a little while. I know this is on the horizon, right?
Yeah.
June, that's pool season. But look, if anybody's
we'll be there before you know it.
I know. HOA presidents, you better open the pool. That's all
yeah. Good point. Good point. Well, Alex, thank you so much for keeping us updated on the forecast. We really appreciate it. I'll let you get to it, and we'll see you again here later at 3. All right, guys, let's talk about some impacts that America's farmers are facing. I want to talk about this. As I mentioned earlier, we were going to talk a little bit more about what the effects they are feeling are. Soybean farmers are really struggling financially as the start of spring planting season starts. Soy is one of the United States' top agricultural exports, and they're dealing with increased fuel prices brought on by the war with Iran, along with tariffs. And this has affected soybean farmers across the Midwest. They're seeing a markup in prices for fertilizers, seed, and equipment, contributing to potential negative margins this year. And it's also the Strait of Hormuz restricting fertilizer supplies with the onset of the Iran war means they're not able to get some of the supplies at the cost they're used to paying. So this is really affecting them as they're trying to get underway for the spring planting season. Last year's tariffs did aggravate a trade war with China, which China was one of the top buyers of United States soybeans. So farmers are facing low soybean prices from excessive global supply and increased operating costs since the pandemic in 2020. A fifth-generation soybean farmer from Nebraska shares a little bit of his concerns for the future of the industry. Take a listen.
Here just a few weeks ago, again, we had price locked in at $400 a ton. Even though there was product sitting in tanks already, some suppliers had gone up to $600 a ton. And to me, that's just nothing more than price gouging. The product is there, it's in their tanks. I just don't understand it. I'm foolish enough that I've been at it, like I said, 43 years. I'm, God willing, I can ride the storm out. What I'm really concerned about is my son. You know, I'm thinking, you know, did I do the right thing helping him get into farming? He'd purchased a farm a few years ago, and, you know, making payments, it's tough.
Well, Bartek says he's setting aside money for equipment upgrades, and he's trying to make the best of what he has. But he expressed, I think, a fear a lot of people can relate to, which is just concerns for their children and what the future looks like. I also want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of these effects here across the nation. So in the European Union, fuel prices are actually up $25 billion since the war with Iran started. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen spoke in Brussels today, saying any potential agreement made between the countries needs to address Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. The EU's top officials also calling for an end to the fighting in Lebanon. She's also recommending EU governments coordinate how they use their oil stocks and store natural gas to avoid added pressure on the market. So that's something that she wants to see. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Bill for fossil fuel imports has increased by over 22 billion euros. 44 days, 22 billion euros, not a single molecule of energy in addition. And this shows the enormous impact this crisis has on our economy. Even if the hostilities ceased immediately and the disruption of energy supplies from the Gulf will persist for some time to come. In recent days, it seemed as if a pause was emerging. A ceasefire has been announced. You all witnessed that. Allow me to say a word of gratitude to Pakistan for the important role they have played to get to this point. But we also know that negotiations have been stalled now, and we have to see how things go on. Any agreement will have to address the concerns raised by Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program and its actions obstructing the navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. The ongoing closure of the Strait of Hormuz is greatly damaging. You cannot have stability in the Middle East or the Gulf while Lebanon is in flames. So we call on all parties to respect the sovereignty of Lebanon and to implement a complete cessation of hostilities.
So that was the EU Commission President speaking a little bit about what she'd like to see happen regarding the war with Iran and its effects on the European Union. Now let's talk about something a little closer to home, because this just happened today. A federal judge has dismissed President Trump's $10 billion lawsuit. It was filed against the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch over reporting on ties to Jeffrey Epstein. U.S. District Judge Darren P. Gales from Florida wrote in his order that the president had failed to make the argument that the article was published with the intent to be malicious, but gave the president a chance to file an amended complaint. So this isn't over yet, but the judge has dismissed the lawsuit as it currently stands. Now, for the backstory, the president filed the lawsuit back in July, following up on a promise to sue the Wall Street Journal almost immediately after it put in a new spotlight on his well-documented relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal had published an article that described a sexually suggestive letter that the newspaper said bore Trump's signature and was included in a 2003 album compiled for Epstein's 50th birthday. The letter was subsequently released publicly by Congress, which subpoenaed the records from Epstein's estate. Now, the president has denied writing it, calling the story, quote, false, malicious, and defamatory. Attorneys for the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch had asked Gales, the judge, to rule that the article's statements were true and therefore couldn't be defamatory. The judge wrote that whether President Trump was the author of the letter or Epstein's friend are questions of fact that cannot be determined at this stage of the litigation. The ruling marks another blow in the Trump administration's efforts to manage the fallout over its release of the Epstein files and the president's attempts to use the legal system to basically cool the reporting that has been critical of him. But keep in mind, neither the White House nor a spokesperson for the Wall Street Journal, which publishes, or the Dow Jones, which publishes the Wall Street Journal, have responded to requests for comments at this time. So the Associated Press has reached out to see what the White House has to say on this. We have not heard back at this time, so we'll keep you updated there. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, you guys, we are going to check in with our Kevin Stewart in just a little bit, getting word that he has made it to a scene as we follow some breaking news in Conyers. We're going to check in on that coming up. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here. We want to get out to a breaking news scene with our Kevin Stewart, where we're learning an officer's been involved in a shooting in Conyers, Georgia. Kevin, what are you learning this afternoon?
Yeah, we understand this all began sometime around 10:30. This started as a call of indecent exposure, a man behaving erratically. And so when police got out here, that's when, not long after that, apparently things turned left and that man was shot. We understand he has been taken to a hospital. He is not dead, but we understand that they've been trying to figure out what happened here, because when we talked to a witness, they insisted this man was completely nude and was not armed, and we've tried to find out exactly why this man was shot, aside from acting erratically, but they did try to tase him. And he did not succumb to that tasing, and eventually they had to pull out a lethal force, and he was shot, we understand. So we're still trying to figure out all those particulars and talk to more folks in the community to get a better understanding of why this all happened and where things stand right now. But that's what we know right now, Ariel.
Very bizarre. You would think that if a man, as the witness described, was fully nude and did not have a weapon on his person, that definitely factors into the threat he may or may not have posed. So absolutely a lot of questions that are going through my mind. I know they're going through yours as well. So I'll let you get out there and get to it, ask questions of neighbors and police, try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and I do want to make sure to tell you, this is Benji Boulevard, and this is a very quiet, nice-looking neighborhood. And you can see the sheriff's office and the GBI back here. So once again, we're going to try to ascertain what's going on here, do some digging, and we'll have another update coming up on Fox Local Atlanta, hopefully by sometime during the 3 o'clock hour.
Okay, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again as soon as you're able to get new information. But thanks so much for joining us and sharing the latest as we know it right now. Kevin Stewart reporting live for us in Conyers there, you guys. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, I want to get you some updates on some stories that we're following. One involves a California congressman, Eric Swalwell, who has suspended his campaign for governor amid allegations of sexual misconduct. He's now facing multiple allegations and just announced today the House Ethics Committee will begin investigating the congressman. He suspended his California gubernatorial campaign yesterday after multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct. He denies this. He's a Democrat and issued a statement saying, quote, "I am deeply sorry for mistakes and judgment I've made in my past," end quote, adding he will continue to fight the allegations. Now, Swalwell had been considered a top contender in the race to succeed California Governor Gavin Newsom, who reached his term limit. Prominent lawmakers and other political leaders have dropped their support for Swalwell after these allegations have surfaced. And a bipartisan effort on Capitol Hill, like I mentioned, will now be investigating through the Ethics Committee, basically looking at whether he engaged in sexual misconduct, including toward an employee who was working under his supervision. So we'll continue to keep you updated on this story. Also want to talk a little bit about a significant development in Hungary, because voters have ousted long-serving leader, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. And this is significant for quite a few reasons, but let's get into who won, okay? The country's newly elected Prime Minister there is Peter Magyar. He hopes to take over as early as May 5th, and he's calling on Parliament, basically the president, to convene Parliament to form a new government as quickly as possible. He spoke at a news conference after his party's victory over Viktor Orban, saying that Hungarians, quote, felt the weight of this election, recognizing it is a decisive one that will determine the fate of our country for a time to come. He also said that Hungary has no time to waste, saying that it has been plundered, looted, betrayed, saddled with debt, and ruined, and turned into the poorest and most corrupt country in the European Union. So he wants to turn things around. Now, you may be wondering why we should care about a country in Eastern Europe, Hungary. Well, that's because leaders here in the United States, President Trump and many conservatives, have long embraced Viktor Orban. The election loss of the former Hungarian Prime Minister has ripple effects here in the United States. Viktor Orban has become an icon among the global right for his anti-immigration stance. And President Trump recently sent Vice President J.D. Vance to Hungary Hungary to stump for Viktor Orban as well. So this is something that we see, this enduring relationship between the two countries. The American president's agenda, President Trump's, has striking parallels with the way that Viktor Orban, the former Hungarian leader, used levers of government to try to keep his party in power for 16 years. We've heard President Trump say multiple times that Viktor Orban is a man that he admires and a man that people can learn from. So that's why this is significant when we see how things are influenced both at home and abroad. Now, we'll continue to keep you updated as this new leader takes power in Hungary and what that's going to look like there. But let's turn our attention out of this world to what is next for the Artemis program, because at this point, after the successful return of Artemis II, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman says he's looking towards the future and what NASA is planning for Artemis 3 and 4. He believes this is only the beginning of the space exploration for the United States. Just a few days after the Artemis 2 crew returns safely back to Earth, NASA is really looking at its next moon mission. Artemis 3 is expected to launch sometime mid-next year, mid-2027, and the goal is going to be to test out flight procedures and docking capabilities in low Earth orbit. The mission's also going to include new spacesuits. Specifics about design features and a crew are going to be announced next year. Then comes Artemis 4 with the aim of returning humans to the moon's surface to study the lunar environment. It's going to set the stage for potential annual crewed missions. And the next decade, or within the next decade, NASA really wants to establish a permanent nuclear-powered lunar moon base so astronauts can live and work there and then eventually land on Mars. And if you're wondering, why do we care about the moon so much? It really comes down to a special element that is prevalent on the moon's surface, and that would be helium-3. It exists in very rare quantities here on Earth, but very plentiful on the moon. The United States is trying to harness this element, this rare element, to be able to find renewable energy, because there's very little waste that would come from using helium-3, and the United States is trying to harness it, especially before China does. So that is something we're going to continue to keep you updated on. If you're looking for a job and you're a gamer, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, would like to speak with you. Let's get into it. The Federal Aviation Administration and the U.S. Department of Transportation are targeting video game enthusiasts for air traffic control jobs. And if you're thinking, why? Well, it might be a no-brainer because the FAA has unveiled this new campaign for the next generation of air traffic controllers. The industry has been struggling with a shortage, especially after the government shut down last year. So U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the campaign is going to take a gaming focus to find those who have, quote, many of the hard skills it takes to become a successful controller. I mean, think about it. The FAA says transferable skills include multitasking, spatial awareness, and problem solving, all things you do through playing video games. The agency found through several exit interviews with controllers that many used gaming as a tool to be good at air traffic control at the job itself, and that helped them think quickly, stay focused, and manage complexity. So according to the FAA, more than 200 million Americans play video games, and the hope is the FAA is going to find some of them for these roles. They're going to accept applications Friday at midnight for the hiring window, and then they're going to continue to see who could be right for the job. But I do think it's somewhat funny, right? Because how many times did your mom maybe tell you growing up that video games wouldn't help you land a job? And now here's this government agency saying, hey, guess what? We think because of the skills you've developed from playing video games, you actually might be a good candidate for this. So that is what they are trying to do, and we'll keep you updated there. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, you guys, we're going to get a check of a small business expo, how some local entrepreneurs are sharing some success stories. Also hoping to check in on a few other stories here locally, specifically an update in a 3-year-old's murder. That's straight ahead. Welcome back in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here at 2 o'clock. You all have a lot to say about the FAA working to hire video gamers as air traffic controllers. TM is saying many people with education and they decide on gamers. So I think the thing is you still need to be educated and you still need to be a well-balanced human being, so to speak. But if you have gaming experience, this could give you a leg up because it could help with multitasking, spatial awareness, and controlling things as you would in an air traffic control tower. So that is why the FAA is saying, hey, we prefer people who have this experience and why they're targeting gamers. But if you don't have gaming experience and you are qualified for this role, I'm sure you would be considered, given that there is a shortage. If you're not, if you're interested and you're not considered, talk to us about it. We'd love to know. Burrell, you're asking how much they start out with pay for the air traffic controllers. I can tell you the average salary is around $140,000 a year. And if you are very experienced, you can earn $200,000 and over. But the average salary is roughly $140,000 annually. So we'll keep you updated as the FAA tries to hire. There is a serious air traffic controller shortage right now, and that definitely affects our nation's airports. Let's bring things a little closer to home because I want to let you know that a person has been charged in a 3-year-old's death. Atlanta police say now 2 people are facing murder charges after a 3-year-old boy, Armani Lyons, was shot and killed in southwest Atlanta last weekend, or actually at this point, really 2 weekends ago. Atlanta homicide investigators established probable cause to arrest 71-year-old Barbara Edwards and 35-year-old Jermaine Hardiman in connection with Armani Lyons' death. Now, one thing to keep in mind, you may remember the mother told us, the mother of Armani Lyons told us that she left her son with a 70-year-old or an elderly babysitter. The mother has confirmed that the person who was arrested was that babysitter. Both suspects were charged with felony murder, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and second-degree cruelty to children. That 3-year-old was found suffering from a gunshot wound to the head the morning of Easter Sunday, and later died at a local hospital. And like I mentioned, Lyons' mother confirms that Edwards was babysitting him at the time of his death. Now, police haven't released details on how the shooting happened. It's not clear if the gunfire originated from inside the apartment or if the shots came from outside the building. Police have not also confirmed the specific relationships between the 2 suspects and the child, but absolutely heartbreaking that mother did drop her son off to be safe with a 71-year-old babysitter, and ultimately that child did die. So the mother had to go to work. We'll keep you updated on this story as it progresses. Taking a look at some of your comments. You're welcome, Burrell. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, our Angelique Proctor plans to join us live at 3 o'clock to address this story. So we'll keep you updated as we learn new details. But in the meantime, I'd like to let you learn of some success stories from local entrepreneurs here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Our Chris Rosenthal went out to speak with them at a small business expo. Take a listen.
You know, this small business showcase here at the Hyatt Hotel today is really kind of a marriage of big businesses and small businesses cooperating. Hyatt Hotels, of course, we've all heard of the Hyatt Hotels. It's a big international hotel chain, but they're showcasing small businesses, small local Georgia businesses. They're working with Georgia Grown, which is part of the Department of Agriculture, and bringing these businesses into the fold. Many of these businesses are already partnering with Hyatt Hotels, some of them getting to use their facilities, their resources, things like their kitchens and various other resources that the Hyatt Hotels have that can help these small businesses here in Georgia grow. Some of them are getting to sell their products in the hotel here. So this is a chance for all those businesses to come together, those small businesses come together under the umbrella of a big one and really showcase their products and network and interact with buyers and vendors. I talked with Derek Morrow with Hyatt Hotels. Just a little bit more about this partnership.
Today is really a way for us to give back to the community. So we have about 125 small business vendors here, predominantly Georgia Grown. We partnership with Georgia Grown, Department of Agriculture, and yeah, we've got about 125 vendors here right now. We started this 5 years ago with 26 vendors, and it's just great to see the growth here.
You know, food is a really, really big part of this. A lot of these vendors here are food vendors. You have barbecue vendors, of course, a very southern thing there. You have ice cream vendors. But I talked to one vendor here today who's actually a mac and cheese vendor. He says the help of this partnership has helped him grow his business about 300%.
The Hyatt adopted us about 6 years ago. So we produce our product here physically at the hotel. We get our dairy from a small farm down in Slocum, Alabama. It's a 100-year-old recipe. We get our organic noodles from Italy and aged cheddar from England. The Hyatt buys our product. We also are scaled up into Hyatt out in Seattle, Denver, Washington, D.C., Grand Hyatt in Buckhead, all because of the incredible amount of support that Derek and Chef Thomas have provided us as a brand.
What does it mean as a small brand to be able to have these resources like a kitchen and to be able to sell in a big business like this?
I mean, we've literally grown over 300% because of that relationship. You know, last year alone, we scaled 30% just in revenue, and that's because of what's happening with us in hospitality. That wasn't a vertical that we had any insight on. We started at a farmer's market. We then began to sell to local retailers, and because of what's going on with the Hyatt, we've been able to truly scale the business itself. We still provide incredible service to local businesses, but we love it.
Georgia Grown is a really big partner in all of this. They're part of the Georgia Department of Agriculture. Agriculture is the #1 industry here in Georgia, $100 billion a year. So I talked with the Agriculture Commissioner here today just about what an event like this means to that industry.
I think at the end of the day, it's recognition by Hyatt and their partner hotels and others that are here and the buyers of that, you know, locally grown products, locally produced products, family-owned operations are truly the heartbeat of our state. You know, agriculture is our #1 industry. It is over $100 billion industry in our state. It is truly what drives our economy, and having an understanding of those small businesses and those small producers and the work that they do in supporting our state every single day and the recognition of that, I think they recognize that. And I appreciate the recognition of Hyatt and the other partners that are here that are coming to see how they can partner with these small businesses and our Georgia-grown businesses across the state to give them opportunities that in another regard they might not have ever had, right? So I think they recognize that this is an investment in our state, is keeping those products local. They're locally grown, locally produced, locally advertised and marketed, and they can use that here in their hotels in Georgia and even across the Southeast, and they can promote and showcase that, hey, these are Georgia-grown products coming from a neighbor down the road, the folks that are in your community that create, that grow, that make these products and produce them for you to enjoy.
You know, with Atlanta getting ready to host the World here in just a couple of months with the FIFA World Cup, this is really a great opportunity for these small, local Georgia businesses to get a chance to show off the best of what the South has to offer to the world at a international hotel. So really a win-win for everybody. Back to you.
Awesome, Chris. Seems like a great partnership, seeing big business and small business team up together and find a way to share what little business has to offer. So it's a great way to have this partnership. Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention. And if you're a local entrepreneur, and especially if you're in the agriculture sector, this might be something that you could be interested in. So we'll keep you updated as that progresses, and you can find more details here in the Fox Local app. As we continue this afternoon, we've got more news and weather headed your way at 3 o'clock, so stay tuned.
Welcome, everybody, to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. So happy you're with us this afternoon. I'm Tom Haynes with a lot of news to get to here live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. We are waiting on a news conference to start any moment here. What we're about to show you is basically an empty podium waiting for officials to come out in a cold case murder investigation. This happening out of Walton County, and it's interesting because the Loganville Police Department's called this news conference to happen any moment now, where officers are preparing to release significant updates, we are told, regarding the death of Kimberly Whaley. Now, who is Kimberly Whaley? Well, she was killed at a CVS pharmacy in Loganville back in November, and police are saying that they have major developments in this case, which they want to tell us about. So as soon as that gets started, we will take you there live. Also, off the top here at 3 o'clock, DeKalb County Police investigating a deadly shooting this morning on Battle Forest Drive. Investigators confirming that a woman was killed in that area, where neighbors say she frequently walked her dog. Ray Arena live on the scene for us. Ray, what is the latest from police this afternoon?
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned that she was known for walking her dog, and that's exactly how neighbors remember her, saying that she was just a friendly face in the neighborhood who would always wave to them as she went by on her daily routine even. Now, we just got an update from police not too long ago, but first, neighbors who live on Battle Forest Drive say that they heard multiple gunshots between 6:30 and 7 o'clock this morning. Police say when officers responded to that call of shots fired, they found a woman with gunshot wounds and stab wounds. The victim's identity has not yet been released, but police say the medical examiner is working to determine a cause of death. Neighbors say they are in disbelief, saying the woman was always friendly and would wave at them. And Tiffany Williams, who lives across the street from where the shooting happened, says the victim had her dog with her when the shooting happened. She says she tried to help the victim afterwards, but it was too late.
I'm kind of, I'm like kind of upset and can't believe that this has happened because she didn't deserve that. And you can't even walk your dog, that's sad.
And police say they called in a K-9 unit to help potentially track down a suspect in this case, but officers say they were not able to track one down. They are asking anyone with any information to reach out to them directly or anonymously via their app or by text. Tom?
Ray, so many questions surrounding this case. Neighbors, as you just showed us, shocked that this even happened in an area where presumably these kinds of things just really don't happen. And this woman just out walking her dog, doing what she normally does.
Yeah, Tom, neighbors told me that it was like clockwork. Every day about 6 o'clock, she'll just be out there walking her dog. It'll be her or her significant other, in this case, walking the dog, just being a normal suburban family. And, you know, this time around, it was anything but normal. And the woman that we spoke to, Tiffany Williams, she says that she saw a man in the area of her body shortly after that she was killed. She says that man later ran off the street. Police have not said who that man may be or if he has any relation to this case, but it is an observation that she had shortly after the shooting. But again, it's anything but normal day happening in this neighborhood, Tom.
Yeah, and as you said, just so frightening that something like that could happen. Boy, your hearts go out to the neighbors in that area who are trying to reconcile all this. Ray Arena with the very latest for us this afternoon. Ray, thanks. Sandy Springs police issuing a warning this afternoon, a stark one to motorists after pulling over a super speeder on the perimeter. Officers clocked a driver going 119 miles an hour on I-285 eastbound. The incident happened near New Northside Drive in a zone where the speed limit's just 65. Police sharing the radar reading as a reminder of the dangers faced by everybody on the roadways when drivers reach these speeds. The driver was arrested, and authorities are urging everybody to slow down and drive responsibly. Police working several crime scenes this morning following a violent string of overnight shootings. In DeKalb County, a woman was shot at the Glen Hollow Apartments on Flat Shoals Road. Another victim struck by gunfire at a Checkers on Wesley Chapel Road. Meanwhile, Brookhaven police investigating after a man was shot multiple times in a Kroger parking lot on Peachtree Road. This following a shooting there just not too long ago. It's the second shooting at that same grocery store, matter of fact, in just 3 weeks. Investigators have released a suspect or information as they work to determine if any of these crimes are connected. 3 Democratic candidates for governor are preparing to take the stage this Wednesday. The hour-long debate features former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, and former DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman. Hosted by Nexstar Media, the event will air on stations all across Georgia. Of course, we'll have coverage here on Fox 5 as Democratic voters look to weigh their options as to which of these candidates they're going to choose. Just the first of several major face-offs planned for this month. Of course, you can count on the Republican candidates facing off as well. The Atlanta Press Club's debate will kick off April the 26th, covering multiple statewide and federal races. Stay with us as we continue to track these key matchups on the road to the Capitol. We're not only covering the governor's race, but the race for United States Senate, as well as John Ossoff tries to defend his seat. Let's turn now to the latest in the situation in Iran and what's happening in the Strait. President Trump speaking this afternoon about that and whether this effort, which went into effect basically at about 10 o'clock this morning, is paying dividends for the United States. The Pentagon confirming the enforcement of the Strait of Hormuz blockade will apply to vessels of all nations entering or leaving Iran. The president indicating he's prepared to move forward regardless of Iran's participation in future talks following a failed round of negotiations over the weekend. Now, military experts are warning the operation will be challenged as the Navy works to demine the strait in an effort to wrest control from the regime. Meanwhile, crude oil prices are up as the administration claims that the blockade is ultimately going to force Iran to address concerns over its nuclear activity. The president indicating in a surprise Oval Office appearance, we're going to show that to you in just a couple of seconds here, that somebody who matters from the Iranian regime contacted the White House this morning to resume negotiations. Now, on to that sound that we were promising from the president this morning outside the Oval Office. He also spoke on Pope Leo, the president coming out with what many considered a provocative tweet, taking aim at the pontiff. The Pope defending his stance, saying that he has no fear of the administration and denying that his message are political in nature. Pope Leo became an outspoken critic of his home country's policies, calling for peace over military action. So as soon as we hear from the president about that, we will, of course, bring it to you. Want to get you back to that news conference that we were talking about here, new details about that cold case murder investigation out of Walton County. Let's listen in.
Upon arrival, a female victim was immediately located in the parking lot, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head.
Do we have
The Loganville Fire Department and Walton County EMS immediately began life-saving measures, and the victim, Kimberly Whaley, 62, of Loganville, Georgia, was transported by helicopter to Grady Hospital in Atlanta. Ultimately, Ms. Whaley succumbed to her wounds and passed away at Grady Hospital on November the 16th. Very early in this investigation, a person and vehicle of interest was identified and a BOLO issued to all surrounding agencies. Very shortly thereafter, that vehicle and person of interest was stopped by the Lawrenceville Police Department. He was turned over to our officers, and despite working throughout the night, our officers and detectives were not able to develop sufficient probable cause to make an arrest at that time. In the 5 months that have followed, we had executed 24 search warrants and grand jury subpoenas, conducted dozens of interviews. We have poured through volumes of video and reviewed hundreds of pages of documents, conducted scientific testing, and much, much more in pursuit of justice for the family of Kimberly Whaley. As a result of the tireless work of our detectives on this case, today I can report to the citizens of Loganville, and more importantly, to the family of Kimberly Whaley, that this morning the Loganville Police Department and Gwinnett County Police SWAT arrested Evander Darrell Schultz, 29, of Loganville, Georgia, in the murder of Kimberly Whaley. He has been charged with felony murder, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and pointing a pistol at another. I want to acknowledge the investigators who worked so tirelessly on this case. Our CID Commander, Ted Chapman, our lead investigators, Sergeant Clint Kitchens, Detectives Michael McWilson and Kenneth Raines, and I also want to particularly acknowledge the contributions of GBI Special Agent Rebecca Harrell, which were paramount in the resolution of this case. I'm also joined today by Alcovey Judicial Circuit District Attorney Randy McGinley. District Attorney McGinley has been personally involved in this case from the outset, and his contribution, along with the work of his staff of prosecutors and investigators, was also paramount in the resolution of this case. From the date this shooting took place, we have received investigative assistance from a myriad of agencies in the metro Atlanta area, to include the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Walton County Sheriff's Office, Monroe Police Department, Lawrenceville Police Department, Gwinnett County Police Department, and Clayton County Police Department, along with the U.S. Department of, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, as well as the United States Secret Service. We thank them all, and this result today is very much due to the cooperative police work exhibited in this case. We are prepared to take a few questions, but I must tell you up front that any question that would impact the integrity of this ongoing investigation, we will have to respectfully decline to answer. Now, before we do that, let me say one more thing very quickly. This case received a great deal of media attention, as well it should have. It received even more attention on social media, a great deal of which was negative. It is very difficult to sit back and not respond to some of the comments that were made about my staff of officers and investigators. As chief of police, I expect to be criticized. But some of what was posted was just, for lack of a better term, just ridiculous. It was said that we gave up, that we weren't pursuing it, that we were hiding things. We were criticized. I was criticized for an apparent lack of transparency in this case. So let me clear that up very quickly. We do not and cannot investigate homicide cases on Facebook. The district attorney's office cannot try a homicide case on social media. There is a huge difference between right to know, need to know, and want to know. I stand by the decisions that I made about the release of information in this case. We protected the integrity of this investigation. And today, we delivered the results that we were after all along. I would like to say to the Whaley family that nothing we can do will bring your loved one back. But step one in making sure that your family receives justice started this morning. For all the things that were said about my detectives giving up, if they weren't being absolutely relentless in the pursuit of this case, I don't know, but I would bet Evander Schultz probably thought some of those same things. I bet he doesn't think so today. Now, having said that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that we might. Yes, sir.
You said it brought a lot of attention to this case. It was in broad daylight.
Yes, sir.
Shock to this community. I know you can't elaborate on a lot of parts of this investigation, but the connection. Everybody wants to know was she a target or is it wrong identity? Can you just elaborate any bit on that without jeopardizing your case?
We don't believe it was a case of mistaken identity. I think that as to motive, and the district attorney could correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think we're a little premature at this point to go forward. This is still an active case. These detectives have been back here about 15 minutes, literally, from what took place today. We're still working it. We're going to keep working it all the way to trial. I'll say this, there were no obvious connections. We don't believe that he knew Ms. Whaley. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Did anything change from the day that you initially detained this person until the day he was charged? What would you say about that?
Quite a bit changed, and I'll put it to you this way. When we were forced to have to release him the night that this happened, I assure you none of us were happy about it. There's a big difference in believing someone is guilty or has committed a crime, or even knowing in your heart that that person has committed a crime, and being able to prove it in a court of law. And we have to put together a case, particularly a case as heinous as this murder was, and present a case to our district attorney that he can take to a jury. That took a lot of time. It took a lot of effort. And it took these folks really digging into details to be able to bring this case to resolution. But I will say this, the case that we have to hand off to him now, I'm extraordinarily confident in that case. Yes. All right, first name is Evander, E-V-A-N-D-E-R. Middle name Darrell, D-E-R-R-E-L-L. Last name Schultz, C-H-O-A-T-E-S.
Was he from, was he from the area? Did he live in Loganville?
Yes, he did live within the city limits of Loganville. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned it was hard for you guys to let him go that day. A lot of people talked about that. The concern that he would do this again, or is there any indication he did anything again between the time you guys were forced to let him go, knowing that he's allegedly just, killed someone in cold blood in broad daylight? I mean, that's a lot of people. Again, you said obviously you were forced to do that.
Well, I can tell you this. Since November 14th of 2025, I'm hoping I might be able to sleep tonight because I hadn't really slept since. That was certainly a concern for all of us on the police side of things, certainly a concern for our district attorney. It's something that we talked about every day. But you can't, you have to be able to prove your case. I hate that it took 5 months for us to be able to develop that. And I know that's been extraordinarily difficult for Ms. Whaley's family. Every day wanting an answer of why. And, you know, we couldn't really go into all the details of all the different things we were doing. But having taken that amount of time, again, I'm very confident in the case we're presenting to our district attorney. Anybody else? All right, we thank you very much. I have some photographs for any of the media members who need them. Has his name and particulars and his charges on the back, and contact if you have anything for follow-up later. All right. Thank you very much.
That's Loganville Police Chief Dick Lowry holding a news conference, and you saw at the tail end of that news conference the camera pan around and show the family members of Kimberly Whaley, who, according to our photographer who was inside that news conference, became very emotional at the announcement that they have a 29-year-old suspect, Evander Darrell Choates, in custody for the murder of Kimberly Whaley at the CVS back in November. The chief talking about that this was a very active case on social media. A lot of people interested in this case, lobbing criticisms at the district attorney and the police department for not moving fast enough on this case. The police chief firing back at those criticisms, saying that police investigations aren't carried out on social media, defending his department's methodologies, saying that he worked in conjunction with the ATF, the Secret Service, and several other agencies to bring this 29-year-old murder suspect into custody. So again, it looks like the family of Kimberly Whaley may get some answers in her horrific death at the CVS drugstore back on November the 14th, something that you all have been watching, and we have too, very, very closely. When we come back, we're going to get to that sound from the president this afternoon, who spoke in an impromptu news conference. He got a DoorDash delivery at the White House today. We're going to tell you about that and the questions he was asked about his social media exchange about Pope Leo when we come back. Yeah. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, joined by meteorologist Alex Forbes, who's been watching our weather for us this week. Alex, look, we're in a drought, which is not good. All right, we need some serious rain to roll through here.
We do.
Pronto.
Yeah, we do. And
but it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon.
We don't have it. And the result is the fire weather conditions that we've seen across metro Atlanta and North Georgia. We've had some cloud cover today, particularly this morning. That held us back in the temperature department a decent amount. Not a huge amount, but low 80s as opposed to the upper 80s. We'll count that as a win. 75 right now in Gainesville, 79 in Athens. It's only 3:27 in the afternoon. Sunset's not till after 8 tonight, so I expect to see maybe a couple more degrees tacked on before all is said and done. But it will be a nice evening out at Truist Park for the Braves and the Marlins in town. Relatively clear skies as temperatures fall from the 80s down into the 60s. So our air is super dry, and when you get that dry air, that allows the temperature to cool a decent amount. Then for tomorrow, out at the bus stop, near 60, getting into the mid 80s under mostly clear skies. Forecasting a high tomorrow of 86. The record is 88. But then look at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We are forecasting to break all of those records. All of them, including on Friday, reaching 90 degrees, which will be the earliest we have ever reached 90 in Atlanta. Friday is April 17th. The earliest we've ever reached 90 is April 25th, so beating it by a couple of days. But then notice we're back closer to average by the start of next week. Not too average, just closer to it as we see a cold front come through. Well, it'd be nice to get some rain out of that cold front, but unfortunately, that does not look likely. 20% chance of showers there on Sunday. So for the rest of the week, we remain in this high fire danger. The combination of the vegetation, the humidity, and the winds. And look, this is not a hypothetical. We have active wildfires right now in North Georgia, particularly parts of White County and in Fannin County. Worth noting in the rainfall department, we are down 5.5 inches of rain. That's on top of 2025 being down 8.8. So more than a foot below average since September 1st. A lot of our area lake levels are low. Lanier's down 5 feet, Hartwell's down 6.5 feet, and Allatoona is down almost 4.5 feet. So some rain would be nice, and a lot of it. And look, we said last week, I got to go look at the specific numbers for this week, but as of last week, we would have needed about an inch of rain every week for 3 months to put an end to the drought. Now that's going to be a little more, either say an inch and a half for 4 months or something like that. And that is going to progressively get worse and worse as this dry period goes on.
Well, we were just talking about the start of, I saw one of your posts on social media talking about the start of hurricane season coming up here.
Yeah.
Or we need one of these sort of non-destructive tropical storms to park itself over the state, which would be good, but you can never count on that either.
Well, so you bring up a good point with hurricane season. We've been talking about this El Nino pattern setting in, and that's going to play a role in hurricane season, but it also is going to play a role in our moisture. Typically in El Nino patterns, we get an active storm track over the southeast. So I'm not looking at this being a years-long thing necessarily, but we need the rain now. Spring is typically one of our wetter times of the year, and we're already in the situation, tropics or not.
You know, when I got here to this market in 2007, not that I'm dating myself, we were in the middle of a serious drought.
Yep. 2008, 2009.
A headline-making drought.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping we don't repeat. Those were some kind of dark days. Yeah. Nobody was allowed to mow their water their lawn. Nobody was allowed to wash their car.
You had all addresses could do something on Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, and even addresses Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah.
Everything was brown. I mean, it was no fun. Right. So let's hope we're not in for a repeat of that.
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, Alex. Thanks. I want to take you back to this kerfuffle involving President Trump and Pope Leo. The last two people on the planet you'd think would be kind of going after each other. Kind of President Trump a little bit more than Pope Leo, but the Pope did respond. The president escalating his war of words with the Pope over the weekend, saying that, criticizing on his Truth Social account the pontiff's recent criticism of U.S. actions in Iran. The Pope came out on a flight that he was on and defended his stance, stating that he has no fear of the administration and denying that his messages are political. Pope Leo has become an outspoken critic of his home country's policies, calling for peace over military action and condemning threats against the Iranian civilization. The Pope's brother just happens to be an ally of President Trump, which the president talked about this afternoon outside the White House after he got a DoorDash delivery. Obviously, that was kind of put together, the president's no tax on tips being demonstrated at the White House, the president giving this DoorDash delivery person a tip. But he did speak about all this to reporters.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as the doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's going through some very serious cancer treatment, so
Yes, sir.
this goes a long way.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Mr. President, are another round of talks planned with Iran? And if so, will you send Vice President J.D. Vance in?
Well, he's done a good job, and Steve and Jared, they've all done a very good job. And I can tell you that we've been called by the other side. They'd like to make a deal very badly, very badly.
What was the sticking point over? You said it was over nuclear.
It was over nuclear, very similar, yeah, very good. I guess you're listening. It's over the fact that they will never have a nuclear weapon. Iran, you marking it down? Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. And we agreed to a lot of things, but they didn't agree to that. And I think they will agree to it. I'm almost sure of it. In fact, I am sure of it. If they don't agree, there's no deal. There'll never be a deal. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, and we're going to get the dust back. We'll get it back either. We'll get it back from them or we'll take it.
Mr. President, as far as the naval blockade is concerned, what's the end game? Is it to force Iran back to the negotiating table? Is it to open up the strait so that gas prices ultimately come down?
Maybe everything. I mean, both of those things, certainly, and more. We can't let a country blackmail or extort the world, because that's what they're doing. They're really blackmailing the world. We're not going to let that happen. And you know, the amazing thing is, we don't, can you believe this? We don't use the strait. We don't need the strait. We have our own oil and gas, much more than we need. We have more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia. Think of this. We produce more. Saudi Arabia, and add Russia to it. Substantially more. And by next year, we'll have double that amount. So we don't need it, but the world needs it. And many ships are heading to our country right now as we speak to load up with the best, really, I guess you could say, somebody said the best and sweetest. I don't know exactly what sweet is, but when it relates to oil, it's a good thing. But they're coming to our country right now. There are many boats coming to our country. Now, it could very well be this is going to be settled before that. We've been called this morning by the right people, the appropriate people, and they want to work a deal. They would like to work a deal.
Is it your anticipation, Mr. President, that other countries will assist in this effort to blockade Iran and those?
All right, President Trump first speaking about a post that went up on social media depicting him in a way that many were led to believe he was, you know, a Christ-like figure. The president saying, no, that's not true. It was me as a helper, a doctor, or something like that. Anyway, the president took down that post, but all of this in the wake of his back and forth with Pope Leo about how the United States is conducting itself in Iran, the president targeting the Pope in a Truth Social post that the Pope found himself motivated to respond to en route to an event. But again, the president covering all that ground in front of a DoorDash delivery person that the White House had staged to come make a delivery to the Oval Office so that the president could give her a tip to tout his no tax on tips initiative. So a lot to unpack in that little bit of sound with President Trump there at the White House. Soybean farmers struggling financially as the start of spring planting season begins. Soy is one of the United States' top agricultural exports. Increased fuel costs brought on by the Iran war, along with tariffs from this administration, have impacted soybean farmers across the Midwest. They're seeing a markup in prices for fertilizer, seed, equipment, contributing to potential negative margins this year. All of this impacting them. The Strait of Hormuz restricting fertilizer supplies with the onset of the Iran war, while last year's tariffs aggravated a trade war with China, a top buyer of soybeans. Let's listen to what one farmer had to say about all this.
During the heat of the war here just a few weeks ago, again, we'd had price locked in at $400 a ton. Even though there was product sitting in tanks already, some suppliers had gone up to $600 a ton. And to me, that's just nothing more than price gouging. The product is there, it's in their tanks. I just don't understand it. I'm foolish enough that I've been at it, like I said, 43 years. God willing, I can ride the storm out. What I'm really concerned about is my son. You know, I'm thinking, you know, did I do the right thing helping him get into farming? He'd purchased a farm a few years ago, and, you know, making payments, it's tough.
All right, that from a soybean farmer about the impact that tariffs have been having on the industry, feeling the impact, really, of what's happening in the Iran war and beyond. That farmer saying that times are tough. He's been through rough times before, but he hopes he can weather this storm. New car prices are reaching a record high as the availability of affordable vehicles continues to plummet. Data from the Labor Department shows new car prices have jumped more than 12% in just a year. According to Car Gurus, the average cost for a new vehicle now sits at about $50,000, a 30% hike from over the last 6 years. The selection of budget-friendly vehicles also shrinking, with vehicles under $30,000 making up only 13% of the market. Consumers are now facing an average monthly payment of nearly $800. To cope with the sticker shock, J.D. Power reports that more buyers are turning to 7-year loans to keep their monthly costs more manageable. News about YouTube this afternoon. U.S. subscribers of YouTube Premium will soon be paying more for their ad-free viewing experience. Google announcing a price hike across all tiers, with individual plans jumping $2 to $15 a month. The family plan, which covers up to 6 accounts, will see the largest increase, rising to $26. Both the Lite and Music Premium plans are also going up by $1 apiece. YouTube says the extra revenue will go toward improving the service and supporting content creators and artists. Existing members are currently being notified by email, and the new rates are set to take effect during the June 2026 billing period. Still a lot more to get to as we come back. We have news today that Atlanta police have issued arrest warrants for 2 people in the shooting death of 3-year-old Amani Lyons. Our Angelique Proctor is live on that story for us this afternoon. We'll check in with Angelique when we come back. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines with you live here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. Appreciate you streaming with us on our streaming app, Fox Local, on your mobile device or at home, watching through one of your live channels. Welcome to you as well on any of our social media sites at Fox 5 Atlanta or always on the radio, 107.9 HD2 FM. Atlanta police issuing an arrest warrant for 2 people in the shooting death of 3-year-old Armani Lyons. This is a story we've been covering a lot here. Angelique Proctor live in Southwest Atlanta with the latest on the investigation. Angelique, what are we learning about these suspects?
Well, good afternoon to you, Tom. What a sad story. And like you said, we started covering this last weekend, actually, when it happened. But the family of this 3-year-old really having a hard time. They were glad to learn that Atlanta police had 2 arrest warrants in this case, but they became very disappointed once they realized that the 2 suspects were not yet in custody. Now, this all goes back to Easter Sunday when Atlanta police say babysitter Barbara Edwards was watching 3-year-old Armani Lyons at her Washington Street location in an apartment when somehow the little boy was shot in the head. Now, police have not released details about how the shooting happened, but on this past Saturday, Atlanta police did tell us they had drawn up felony warrants for a murder for the 71-year-old Barbara Edwards and 35-year-old Jermaine Hardiman. Now, we were able to get older mugshots of both suspects, and I hope we have those up for you because they both have been arrested before. Now, both are charged with felony murder, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and second-degree cruelty to children. Now, Trinetta Julian says she was like a grandmother to little Armani and is filled with so many questions. She says she has a message for both suspects tonight.
It's real difficult just dealing with him not being here. And like I said, I mean, just real difficult, especially nobody saying nothing, not knowing nothing, you know, of what's going on. Why it doesn't even matter. It shouldn't have happened, period. I felt better because the last text I received, we was at his repast, and the last text, somebody texted me, said they been arrested. And just finding out this morning, like, it is a relief knowing that they have somebody, they looking at these 2 individuals, but to know that they're still on the run, like, that hurt even more because I'm thinking, justice has been served, them being behind bars. I'm thinking they locked up, but they're still running. You know what I'm saying? If you're not guilty and you know you have a warrant out for your arrest, why are you still running? Why? Where y'all at? Let's tell a story. Turn yourself in. Turn yourself in. Let's find out what's going on. What you have to hide by running. I mean, your name was put out there Saturday, and here today is Monday.
So we are waiting to hear back from Atlanta police about the status of these arrest warrants. We do know that the 2 people were here in the Atlanta area. Now, I did talk with police late this afternoon, and they said they really wouldn't characterize this as the suspects running, but you've got to wonder, it's been 2 days now, what is the holdup in this case? And that is certainly the question that the family has. Now, I attempted to reach out to Armani Lyons' mother, was not able to connect with her today, but she has been in touch with the Fox 5 newsroom in the past, asking for help that we get this story out about her son. She also started a GoFundMe page for him. And again, the funeral was this past Saturday. So that is the very latest. We are monitoring this situation and really expect to hear something from Atlanta police sooner than later. Tom?
Yeah, and you said it, Angelique. I mean, your heart goes out to not only the mother, but the whole family surrounding Armani and this devastating situation that, as you said, we've been covering here. But you have to think that the mother is finding at least some peace in the fact that police have made progress on this case.
Absolutely, and they indicated that, this was a step in the right direction, but they thought along with those arrest warrants would come, the fact that they would be behind bars, and that part just hasn't happened yet. And so 1 day passed, 2 days, and now going on the third day, it's just a little frustrating for the family.
You can understand the difficulty in reconciling all of this. Angelique Proctor, live with the update for us this afternoon. Angelique, thanks. The California Congressman Eric Swalwell is dropping out of the race for governor. All right, he was one of the main Democratic candidates running for governor in that state to replace term-limited Gavin Newsom. The announcement coming as the Democrat lawmaker faces multiple allegations of sexual misconduct. In a statement released on Sunday, Swalwell apologized for what he called mistakes in judgment, but vowed to continue fighting the allegations. Once considered a top contender to succeed Newsom, Swalwell had seen a wave of political leaders withdraw their support in recent days. A bipartisan effort is now underway on Capitol Hill, calling for a formal investigation into these claims. Well, you saw it here live on Fox Local. Many of you did. A lot of people watching the splashdown of Artemis as we hosted special live coverage here on the stream of that dramatic event. Well, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman is hailing the return of Artemis II as the start of a new era in deep space exploration. Following the successful splashdown, the space agency shifting its focus now to Artemis III. This is the actual lunar landing. Okay, so these astronauts went further into space than any other astronaut ever has. Now we're going to actually park on the moon in this next mission. The ambitious timeline continues for Artemis IV as NASA plans to return humans to the lunar surface to study the environment and set the stage for annual missions. So within the next decade here, the goal is to establish a permanent nuclear-powered base on the moon. How cool would that be? Officials say that these steps are essential to building a sustained human presence beyond Earth, ultimately clearing the path for the first crewed landing on Mars. When we come back, more than 100 local businesses headlining a special showcase in Atlanta today. Our Chris Rosenthal is there. We're going to check in with him as we continue. Welcome back, everybody. More than 100 local small businesses are headlining a special showcase in Atlanta today. Our Chris Rosenthal is at the Hyatt with a look at these vendors.
You know, this is a chance for small local businesses here in the state of Georgia to get to partner with a big international company like Hyatt and use their resources and use, you know, almost like a mentorship, if you will, to help scale their businesses and grow their businesses. A lot of these are food-based businesses, and Hyatt offers the opportunity for them to use their kitchens, for example. They get to use, you know, their stores and their marketplaces to sell some of their goods and really get some of that really great exposure. I talked to one woman who makes macaroons, and on the roof of the hotel here, they actually make honey that she gets to use in her macaroons.
Yes, the resources here have been tremendous. It has given a lot of exposure and has been able to help me grow from within, and then also give me the leadership opportunities that I needed as well as being a business owner.
So really a unique partnership that Hyatt Hotels has with these small Georgia businesses, and today is just an opportunity to showcase some of those businesses. I spoke with one of them here today, actually. He's makes macaroni and cheese, and his business has been able to grow 300% with the help of Hyatt.
The Hyatt adopted us about 6 years ago, so we produce our product here physically at the hotel. We get our dairy from a small farm down in Slocum, Alabama. It's a 100-year-old recipe. We get our organic noodles from Italy and aged cheddar from England. The Hyatt buys our product. We also are scaled up into Hyatt out in Seattle, Denver, Washington, D.C., Grand Hyatt in Buckhead, all because of the incredible amount of support that Derek and Chef Thomas have provided us as a brand.
What does it mean as a small brand to be able to have these resources like a kitchen and to be able to sell in a big business like this?
I mean, we've literally grown over 300% because of that relationship. You know, last year alone, we scaled 30% just in revenue, and that's because of what's happening with us in hospitality. That wasn't a vertical that we had any insight on. We started at a farmer's market. We then began to sell to local retailers, and because of what's going on with the Hyatt, we've been able to truly scale the business itself. We still provide incredible service to local businesses, but we love it.
Georgia Grown is a really big partner in all of this. They're part of the Georgia Department of Agriculture. Agriculture is the #1 industry here in Georgia, $100 billion a year. So I talked with the Agriculture Commissioner here today just about what an event like this means to that industry.
I think at the end of the day, it's recognition by Hyatt and their partner hotels and others that are here and the buyers of that, you know, locally grown products, locally produced products, family-owned operations are truly the heartbeat of our state. You know, agriculture is our #1 industry. It is over $100 billion industry in our state. It is truly what drives our economy, and having an understanding of those small businesses and those small producers and the work that they do in supporting our state every single day and the recognition of that, I think they recognize that. And I appreciate the recognition of Hyatt and the other partners that are here that are coming to see how they can partner with these small businesses and our Georgia-grown businesses across the state to give them opportunities that in another regard they might not have ever had, right? So I think they recognize that this is an investment in our state. It's keeping those products local. They're locally grown, locally produced, locally advertised and marketed, and they can use that here in their hotels in Georgia and even across the Southeast, and they can promote and showcase that, hey, these are Georgia-grown products coming from a neighbor down the road. You're the folks that are in your community that create, that grow, that make these products and produce them for you to enjoy.
You know, with Atlanta getting ready to host the World here in just a couple of months with the FIFA World Cup, this is really a great opportunity for these small, local Georgia businesses to get a chance to show off the best of what the South has to offer to the world at a international hotel. So really a win-win for everybody. Back to you.
Win-win is right. What an awesome opportunity for those local small businesses. Chris Rosenthal at the Hyatt. Chris, thanks. And thank you for joining us here for the 3 p.m. streaming hour. I'm Tom Haines. Don't go anywhere. The news continues right here, right now.